type Y in the chat. How many of you want like a quick recap of the rules of procedure so that you know or you brush up your rules of procedure before we start? All right, cool. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So basically, what we're going to start with is attendance, where we're going to take the attendance of everyone in the committee, whether you're present or not, so that we know what the strength of the committee is, so that we know how many votes are to be expected in a particular voting procedure or something like that, right? That will be the first thing that we'll be doing. Second, we'll be doing opening statements. Opening statements are basically statements where any particular person can tell us what their stance on the particular topic is, what they hope to achieve from the committee, and what they probably like want to say it out loud. So basically, it's just a maximum of 2 minutes where you can just talk about your stance. It's basically like just like it says, it's basically an opening stance on the topic as such. So that's the first thing that we'll be doing. That's any person can raise a particular motion. So how we are going to raise motions in this particular like format of online MUNs is that we are going to ask. There's an option of raising your hand. I hope you guys know that. So there's an option of raising your hand in the participant list itself. So if you can raise your hand, we can notice you on the screen and will recognize you. So we'll be recognizing 3 motions per whenever we ask for motions. So at that particular point of time, when you're recognized, you can unmute yourself. You can raise a motion verbally. You can tell us that you want to suspend formal debate and you want to raise you want to raise a motion to start opening statements. You can set a timer of either 90 seconds or 120 seconds. That is either 1 minute 30 seconds or 2 minutes completely. So the maximum limit is 2 minutes. You cannot go beyond that. So it's completely on your discussion, and then we'll have a voting on that. Whether yeah.
So the opening statements will not have any motions, right? Because it's just a stance.
I mean, yeah, that's also true. If you want, we can't even. If you want, if we can skip with the motion part as well, because opening statements are anyway going to happen. But
about the timing of the opening statements, so I think we'll need a motion.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was going for the motion. But I mean, if it's fine with everybody, you can probably informally talk to the people in the committee and come to a consensus. We can informally set the timing of this opening statements as well. But if you want to go with the formal procedure, we can go with that as well. So I would ideally request a motion so that it's formally registered by us as well, as EVs as well, as to what the timing and who raised the motion and all those kind of things. So that's the first thing that we'll be doing, opening statements, where you can have either for 90 seconds or 120 seconds. The second thing that we'll be doing is a GSL. So basically when the opening statements end, and for opening statements, everybody has to speak. I encourage everybody to speak. After everybody has spoken, after we are done with the opening statements, we will then be directly moving on to the GSL, where we will ask for motions, where you can, again, just like an opening statement, you can set a motion for a specific time period for a general speakers list. This means that you can have it maximum for 90 seconds, but it doesn't mean that you cannot reduce the time limit to 1 minute or something like that as well. Which means that even though the maximum limit is 90 seconds, you can set the motion for anything less than that as well. But we highly recommend to please keep it divisible so that it's easier for calculation purposes as well. So keep it 1 minute or 90 seconds, whatever you want. So in a GSL,
so there is a query.
Yeah.
So what happens to be the what is the maximum total time for any motion, sir? For any moderated caucus, I mean.
A moderated caucus is 1 minute. I'll be coming to that. Anyway, so that's about what a general speakers list is. What you can do in a general speakers list is even more wider ambit than a particular opening statement. So an opening statement is basically like a stance of that particular party representative or that party in this particular agenda. But a GSL or general speakers list basically means you can talk about anything under the umbrella of this particular topic. It's basically like for example, if you miss out on a particular particular motion, like a formal discussion, or say for example, by some logistical problems, we could not accommodate you in a speaker position in a formal discussion, you can use the general speakers list to voice out whatever you wanted to say, which you couldn't say in a formal discussion. Or say for example, you have spoken in a formal discussion, but you want to add more, but however there's no time in the formal discussion to talk about it, so you can use this device of a general speakers list to probably further your arguments or further your points in that way as well. There's one more like use of a general speakers list, and this is where the technical point of it comes into play. General speakers list is the first device in this particular AIPPM where we will be allowing yields. So there are three kinds of yields. I had explained that in my rules of procedure session. The first kind of yield is basically where you yield it to the chair. Yield it to the chair means basically you're just yielding it to us. Now, according to our discussion, we can either choose to ask you a question, or we can further yield it back to somebody, some delegate who probably wants to wishes to ask a question, or we can just move on with the next speaker. So it's completely on the discussion of the chair when you're yielding it to the chair as such. The second kind of yield is when you yield it to a particular delegate. This means that, say for example, if I am Amit Shah, and if I have not elapsed my time completely, I can choose to yield my time to another particular person, like say for example Rahul Gandhi, or say for example Modi, or something like that, right? So which means that this kind of a yield is from a delegate to a delegate, or from a party representative to another party's representative. So that's the second kind of yield. The third kind of yield is yielding to points of information. Points of information basically, and this is actually twofold, either it's points of information or comments, but I would highly encourage like points of information, because comments are just generally something else. Anyway, so points of information basically mean that a particular person can ask you a question on your speech as such, which means that, say for example, I'm Mamta Banerjee. I can and if for example I want to ask Rajnath Singh a question on his speech, then I can probably choose to use that point of information and ask a question on that particular speech of that particular person. However, and notice this is the caveat. The caveat is that you cannot ask anything beyond that speech, which means that, say for example, if I say A, B, C, D, E in my speech, you cannot ask me a question about F or G, because that's not within the purview of my particular speech. So that is the kind of caveat that is there when you're asking a point of information. In a point of information, there are further technical things, like say for example, if I'm asking a question, but I'm not getting a satisfactory answer from a particular party representative, then you can raise your hand, just like there is a device in like Zoom. You can raise your hand on Zoom, and we will probably recognize you, where you can choose to follow up. This is called a plea to follow up. A plea to follow up basically means that you can choose to ask another question of a similar nature, prodding further into the answer of that particular question. Which means, and this is thoda sa complicated, so I'll just simplify it. It means that, say for example, I ask you a question, you give me an answer, but I'm not satisfied with that answer. I can choose to follow up on that question by asking a question on that answer itself. This means that I'm trying to prod or investigate, or ask further questions in that same tangent. This is a follow-up question. However, follow-ups are very, very discretionary from the part of the EB. So only if we recognize, be it me or be it deputy moderator or the scribe as such, or the technical members, only if we by our discussion choose or recognize that this is something which needs to be addressed further, will we be recognizing a follow-up question. That's a point of information. Now, sure, yeah, go on.
Yeah. You said POIs are limited to the speeches given by the representatives, and if we give POIs,
your internet is lagging. I can't hear you properly. Hello, can you test your mic again?
Sorry, put it in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, that also can be done, but since this is the AIPPM where he will have to eventually speak anyway, I would suggest you try to switch network or something like that. Can you test your mic again, Tejasvi Yadav?
Is it audible now?
Yes. This is much clearer. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You said that POIs are limited to the speeches given by the representatives. So if we give POIs to it to be have to be same like limited to these speeches?
Sorry, I couldn't get you. Can you come
Yeah.
again?
If we give POIs truth sheets, does it have the
Oh,
same
okay.
criteria?
No, we would suggest that you don't have chits in when you're asking a POI, because this POI is going to happen like on that particular on at that particular time itself. So if you send a chit, then it becomes difficult for us to also keep track of whether the person is answering that chit or not. So if you're asking a POI, it's much more effective when you verbally ask them, when we ask for it, or when the delegate yields it to like points of information. Yeah.
Is the EB entertaining the POIs in the mod caucus topics?
No, we are not. We're coming to that. So anyway, so this is what a general speakers list is. There are 3 kinds of yields. Okay, so within that POI, there is one more yield that is there, yield to comments. This means that it is not it's basically a point of information is a question from another person to you, but a comment is basically just a passing comment by somebody else on your speech. It's not really very effective, but it's just there as part of the procedure. So we will not be encouraging it, although it is available to you guys. So anyway, so these are the 3 kind of yields in a general speakers list. So in a general speakers list, you can use it to do anything in your particular speech. However, keep it under the umbrella of this agenda, otherwise it won't become very relevant. Anyway, so let's move on to the next kind of device. So in a general speakers list, that is the only time where you can ask questions, these POIs and all those kind of things. These devices of POIs is not available in the further things that I'm going to explain. So the next device that I'm going to talk about is a formal session. A formal discussion basically is like a moderated caucus in a normal MUN. So in a normal MUN where you have Security Council or where you have Human Rights Council, or if you have never been to those MUNs, it's also totally fine. A formal discussion is basically where you'll have a subtopic being debated. So in a general speakers list, you can talk about anything under the umbrella, but in a a formal discussion, you have to talk about something which is a subtopic. It's like a specialized topic that you want to talk about. So this is much more nuanced, where you will have to go into the specifics of what you're debating on, why you are debating on that, and like what it is. So maximum time limit per speaker is just 1 minute in that particular formal session. So that is the kind of a restriction that is there on every speaker. However, if we see that many people are not speaking up, which sometimes happens, where we are, say for example, the formal session is for a period of time which will allow 15 speakers or 20 speakers, but we can't get 20 speakers who are willing to speak. Probably if, say for example, there are 7 spots or 5 spots lying vacant, then we'll be recognizing speakers who have spoken before as well to be taken up as well. So if you want, we will recognize you. Yes,
Sir, so is the committee bilingual, or we would be only communicating in English?
it's bilingual. You can do Hindi or English. It's supposed to be actually for all 22 languages that are recognized in the constitution. However, since I don't understand all the 22 languages, and for the betterment of the entire committee, because it will have a lot of language barriers, I hope everybody is okay with the bilingual metric of Hindi and English. I hope nobody will have a problem with that. So if you do, just personally text us or something like that. We can probably arrange for something to that respect as well. Anyway, so that is what a formal session is. A formal session is basically so how do you enter into a formal session? Just like an opening statement or just like a general speakers list, you can raise your hand when we ask for motions. Only when we ask for motions, basically, you can raise your hand. You can so the format of raising a particular motion is I so and so, whatever your portfolio is. Say for example, Tejasvi Yadav. I, Tejasvi Yadav, would like to suspend formal debate and would like to raise a formal discussion on a particular, on whatever the topic might be, whatever your topic might be, for a total time of so and so, per speaker time so and so. So you have to mention 3 things. One is that you're 4 things. One, you have to suspend formal debate. I'll get to why you have to suspend formal debate as well. So you have to suspend formal debate. 2, you have to mention what the topic of that particular formal discussion is. 3, you have to mention what the total time is, and 4, what the total speaker time is. Okay, so these are the things that you have to necessarily mention when you're raising a particular motion in a. Okay, you have a problem with Hindi. All right, so is it okay if you speak in English? Would that solve your problem, or do you have a problem in that as well? Anyway, you can privately text me if you're uncomfortable. Anyway, so yeah, that's about what a formal discussion is. So however, okay, it's okay with English, all right, then it's completely fine. So all right, so I would recommend that everyone use English because it seems to be something that everybody is comfortable with, or at least can understand at least. So I would recommend that. But if it's completely, if it's being too much of a problem, then you can use Hindi as well. That's not a barrier as such. But for the brevity of like the committee, for everybody to understand, I would suggest English. Anyway, so let's move on. So a formal discussion, and this was a question that was asked in the group as well, so I would like to clarify here as well. A formal discussion can be extended. This means that if you feel that the formal discussion has ended with, say, for example, 15 speakers, but you want to extend it and the committee wants to extend it, then you can raise, we can ask for extension motions where you can extend the motion for a particular period of time. But there are two things in this regard that you have to notice. One, you cannot extend it for a time period more than half of the original motion, which means if the original formal discussion was for, say, for example, 15 minutes, so you cannot extend it for more than 7 minutes. 8 minutes, so we cannot allow because that's more than half, and 7.5 is just difficult to calculate. So we would suggest 7 minutes. You cannot go beyond 7 minutes. So that way, so you cannot extend it more than half of the original time period of the formal discussion. And the second thing that you have to notice is that you cannot change the per speaker time. Whatever was the per speaker time of the original formal discussion, that will only continue. So these are the two things that you have to keep in mind when you are extending a particular formal discussion. So a formal discussion will have no points of information, no comments or nothing as such. If you want, you can privately probably send them a chit. I think the deputy moderator had explained as to how to send a chit. We can probably take a note of that as well. Or we can probably, and you can answer it via chit as well if you want. So this is where if you feel that you are not allowed and you're being restricted by the formal session to ask questions of a verbal nature, then you can send a chit and you can still fulfill that particular yeah.
We have to send the chat through the through everyone, right? Because the EB will also see it. So
deputy moderator, if you want to clarify.
Yeah. So if you want to send it via the EB, you can put it on the chat box, and in the bracket you can put via EB. So let's say if Arvind Kejriwal is sending a chat to Jagan Mohan Reddy and you wanted to go via us, you can just put it in the bracket via EB. If you want to personally ask them something, to clarify something, to just text them personally on WhatsApp or even here. But if you want the EB to take note of it, please put in the bracket via EB. All right. From Arvind Kejriwal to Jagan Mohan Reddy and in bracket via EB. Is that clear?
All right. So that's about it. So that's the formal session part of this particular AIPPM. So now we will come to the informal session. So say, for example, sometimes you feel like you're just having a discussion without any direction. Sometimes you feel like, we are saying something, the other side is saying something, we are not coming to a middle ground as such. So there might be a lot of, places or a lot of times where you will probably feel that as a member, as a parliament, as a party representative, you want to probably talk to other people informally and all those kind of things. So for that as well, we have this thing called an informal discussion. An informal discussion is basically you raise an informal discussion just like a formal discussion. You just raise your hand and you can probably you just have to say that we suspend formal debate and we enter into a informal session for a particular time period. This time period cannot be more than 20 minutes. Okay. But this informal session is basically can be used for you to lobby. It can be used for you to probably research further, or say, for example, if you want, you can write down a paperwork, all those kind of things. However, we as the executive board will not be moderating the informal session. It's basically just like how our WhatsApp group was completely unmoderated when you were talking about it, unless you asked a question. The same way, you can have an unmoderated, completely informal session using that informal discussion session. So that's about an informal discussion session. It can be as chaotic as you want it to be. It can be as systematic if you want to be. We won't be saying anything because we won't be moderating it. So that's what an informal session is. All right. So there's a question here: to whom do we send the substantial check? You can send it to either of us. You can send it to the deputy moderator. You can send it to the scribe. You can send it to me. Either of them works, I think. So that's about it. So that's what an informal session is. So coming back now, the only thing that's remaining is the paperwork. But before the paperwork, I want to tell you some technical things. So, say for example, was it a question? Anyway, yeah, okay. So some technical things. Say for example, if you are in an opening statement and if we exhaust the opening statement, then we directly go to a GSL. However, like same thing applies to a formal discussion as well. If we exhaust the formal session, we automatically revert back to the general speakers list, which means that whenever we are in a particular motion, in a particular session, say for example an informal session as well, whenever that particular time period is exhausted, we automatically go back to the GSL. So whoever is on the general speakers list, the last particular person whose turn is probably there, you will be recognized as the next speaker who will be probably speaking. So after 2 or 3 general speakers list, we can take more motions and we can proceed if you want, or if you don't want, we can continue with the GSL as well. Completely depends on you, because it's ultimately you as party representatives who are going to raise motions anyway. There's another question here. Do we get notice during the unmod? I'm not sure what notice you're referring to, but I don't. If something that you're expecting from
marking, because some EVs mark you on your unmod, others don't notice you and mark you during your unmod. So will we be noticed, or can we in very informally speak to the other delegates?
We will get back to you on that. Ideally, so there's a division of thought process on that as well. Some EVs like to watch you and notice you. Some EVs don't like to. So, but there's a difference in that, because the ultimate result of a lobby is something that is played out in the formal session anyway. So the way you vote, the way you raise motions, the way you speak, all those kind of things are noticed by us, where we notice that it's probably a result of your lobbying and all those kind of things. So it's not necessary for us to notice you during your unmod. We can probably see the fruits or the results of that particular session in the next thing that we open up to. So we will anyway get back to you on that after I discuss it with our EV anyway. So that's about what that is. So yeah, as I was saying, you revert back to the GSL whenever some session or some particular motion has ended. That's a technicality that you have to remember. Okay, now coming to the paperwork. There are 2 kinds of paperwork, as I told you. There's a lot of confusion regarding press release, so I'm going to clarify that really well. So please pay attention. Paperwork, the first one, which is very easy, is a communique. Okay? It's easy to explain. It is not easy to pass it in a committee. So anyway, so what a communique is basically is that you will basically have to. Doesn't have any format. You just type out what your title is, just like a type to a document as such, and then you write down the signatories. Signatories mean that you want a particular paper to be discussed. It does not mean that you are voting for it or voting against it or anything as such. A signatory only means that you are willing for it to be discussed as such. So if you are a signatory, please write your name in that signatory box. So that will be what the second thing that you have to do in a communique. Signatories minimum, you have to satisfy the threshold of 1/3 of the committee. So after we take the attendance, we will let you know what the 1/3 of the committee is, so that you are aware of how many people you need minimum for a signatory. Second thing that you will need to mention is who is it. Second thing that you need to mention is the content of the entire communique. Basically what the information is in the communique, what you have resolved to take upon yourself, or what you have resolved on, all those kind of things. So a communique is basically like a joint statement by the entire committee. In simple words, it's basically a joint statement by the entire committee. So if you have noticed in a actual
So regarding the communique, so is it possible to have 2 contradicting statements in the same communique? Like, is that possible?
It's not recommended. It's totally possible, but it's something which is kind of ineffective as a paperwork, because
So there might be a possibility of difference of opinion in the house, so that might cause something of such sort. So would that be really entertained, or would a press release be recommended instead of that?
That's a good question. So usually what happens is that you don't mention those kind of things in your press release, in your communique at all. So say for example, on a particular topic, like my party stance is A, but the other party stance is B, right? I cannot mention A or B because either of them will alienate the other. So either of them will lead to the other being angry. So what we usually do in terms of drafting a communique is we don't mention A or B. We take a middle ground. So you have to, as a person, as a party representative, you have to navigate, you have to lobby with people to convince them to accept your viewpoint. Or if they are not able to being convinced, then you have to just, go ahead and write something convenient in your particular communique as such. Coming to the contradiction, I would highly suggest don't do that, because otherwise, so notice this, right? A communique is a joint statement, which means that imagine what the people of India are going to think if the AIPPM as a joint statement is going to put out two different contradictory things. So I would suggest that it is I would suggest that you don't do it, because it's something that is really ineffective in the public and it has no meaning otherwise. So that way. Anyway, so that's what a communique is. The last part of a communique that I'll explain is the voting procedure. So everybody has to vote upon it. Like whenever it's a procedural vote, everybody has to vote upon it. We are going to have a poll as well, which the deputy moderator is going to explain in a bit. So a particular what I was saying, So a communique needs to be passed by everyone. Even if a single person says no, or if a single person says that votes no or is neutral or something like that, then the communique doesn't pass. So you have to. That's the difficulty that's there in a communique. You have to make sure everyone is on board with the communique. You have to draft and you have to consult with everyone so that everybody is happy with the communique. So that's the thing about communique. Yeah.
So instead could be a press release than a communique, because I think that is less complicated, I guess.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's completely your choice. So it's totally your choice. If you want to try for a communique and if it doesn't pass, you can probably try a press release. If you want, you can just start with a press release. It's completely your choice. These are just things that I'm explaining to you as options that are available to you as a committee. So a communique is that. So that's what a communique is. The second part, which I think a lot of people had questions about, is a press release. So a press release. So all your questions about what newspapers are allowed are not relevant, because you're not publishing it to a newspaper. A press release means that as a party, you're releasing a statement to the press. It doesn't mean that you have to mention who you're releasing it to. It just means that you're releasing it in public as to what your party is saying or whatever. So a press release might be in the form. So if you might have been reading up in politics recently, the BJP, the Congress, all of these parties, they are releasing press releases every time something happens in the country. Say for example the Rajasthan political crisis, or say for example the Maharashtra political crisis. You always have the party high commands or the party headquarters releasing press statements and all those kind of things. These are press statements. These are press releases. A press statement is like a spokesperson coming out and saying out what the party wants to say. But a press release is basically in the print format. You're not saying it out loud. It's just in the print format. So the same way, if the concept is clear now, I will go into how a press release is done. First, you'll have to, So first, you'll have to basically write down, you have to just title it as press release so that we know that it is a press release to begin with. Then you go on to who it is being released by. So you can write down your party name, or you can write down the party leader who's issuing out the press release, or you can probably write down if there are co-authors to that particular press release, you can write down the number of MPs as well who are involved in it. So that's one. That's the second part. The third part is the content of the particular document as to what you are releasing into the public. So there must be something that you want to release. So the information or the kind of statement or stance that you're probably putting out will be there in the content or the information. That has no format, so you can write out in a point wise as well, like a bullet point format as well. The fourth thing is that you'll be signing it. The party leader has to sign the press release. So I think it's not possible in an online format. So we'll be doing away with it. So I guess if you satisfy the three things that I told you: one, title; two, who is it being authored by, like what party or what leader as such; and three, the content of it. That will be enough. So that's what a press release is. So it can be party wise, it can be joint statement between two or three parties, like a coalition or something like that. It is completely your prerogative, or all those kind of things. However, don't have a joint press release for the entire committee, because that is essentially what a communique is. So that doesn't make sense. So have a communique instead if you want to take everybody on board, like in terms of the entire committee. If it is absolutely not possible, then go for a press release where you can have between parties, or say for example in individual party wise. So however, what we'll be asking for, especially when somebody releases a press release, is whether the leader of the party was informed or knew or consents to this particular press release. Which means that, say for example, right now the interim president of Congress is Sonia Gandhi. If a Sonia Gandhi was to be present in this committee, I think she is. If not, let's just imagine a Sonia Gandhi. If a Sonia Gandhi is there and she doesn't know that a press release is to be issued, or she does, and it's still done in the name of Congress, then then we will not be entertaining that particular press release. So it has to be done with the consent and the authority of the party leader, because it's a party statement as such. So that will be all regarding a press release. We have reached the end. Oh yeah, one more thing. Sorry, I totally forgot. There are certain points and rights on the floor. What are these points and rights? So first is a point of order. I explained that in my rules of procedure if you were there. I'll just quickly go through it because you're spending a lot of time on this. So a point of order can be of two types. One, a procedural point of order on us as the ED, because we are humans and we make mistakes as well. So a point of order is basically an inaccuracy in the procedure or in the facts as such. I'll be explaining it for us detailed. So a procedural inaccuracy is always raised on the EB as such for not following the procedure properly. Say for example, I say, are there any motions? And if there are motions, and if you say out your motion aloud, something like that, instead of voting, I say, that motion is not in order, or something like that. So if I say something which is procedurally inaccurate, or say something which is not mandated by the procedure, then you can raise a point of order on us. That's a procedural point of order. Second point of order is a factual point of order. A factual point of order is usually on some other party representative speech. This means that wait. Okay, all right, just anyway. So yeah, a factual point of order means that you want to raise a fact. You saw or you heard somebody say something in their speech which was factually inaccurate. So now there might be a lot of problems when you're raising a factual point of order, because first there is no clarity as to what is a authority as such in terms of say for example what resources are we relying on to prove a particular fact as such. So I had explained that before as well. Point of order in a factual manner is very subjective. So say for example, if you're relying on a particular news channel like Aaj Tak, or say for example Republic TV as such, for saying that hey, this channel said this particular fact and you are saying something else, so you're relying on Republic TV or one particular channel as such to rebut or to say that this is a point of order, then I probably won't be looking into it. We won't be probably like entertaining it properly. But what I mean is, we cannot rely on any particular news channel or any particular authority which is not a legitimate government or body or anything as such as something which can be relied upon. So unless it's a government body issued statistic or something like that, then we can obviously rely on it. However, if it's done by some print media or some newspaper as such, then we cannot rely it completely based because because they're a newspaper. So because all newspapers have a tendency to be biased and can be inaccurate as well. So what we'll be looking on is subjectivity of the content. If the content is something which is very, very objective, which is accepted by everyone, say for example, the fact that China has, intruded into Ladakh or something like that, right? These are things which are very objective and out there. So then we won't be, then we won't be telling you that, hey, get a better newspaper, Republic TV will not work. No, we will not say that. We will accept that fact if you are, taking up a news channel as such. So what matters, so what is the point of this discussion is that, and I'm kind of confusing you guys. So the point of this basically is that it doesn't matter what source you're quoting, unless it's a government like source as such, and unless the content of that particular source that you're trying to say is something which is objectively accepted by all. If it is not, if it is disputed whether or not something is objectively a lie or a factual inaccuracy as such, then we will not be ruling upon that fact point of order.
Sir?
So yeah.
So what are the reliable sources according to you? Only the government stated things, or
Yes.
something like India Today or something else?
No, only the government sources. That's what I said. Nothing else matters. Nothing else can be relied upon as a thumb rule as such, because all these news channels can have a tendency of being biased as such. So we will not be looking at the news channel as such for ruling upon it. We will be looking at the content and whether it can be relied upon as something which is objectively accepted or not. That was the point of this discussion.
And one more thing, sir.
Yeah.
What about the UN issued statements and the UN data? So would that be taken into consideration?
Of course, of course. So when I say government, I mean intergovernmental organizations as well, which have some legitimate authority in issuing those statements. So yeah, that's what I will consider. However, so that's about what a point of order is, a procedural one and a factual one. How do you raise a point of order? You can verbally raise a point of order only on somebody's GSL speech or somebody's opening statement speech, but you cannot raise a verbal point of order on a particular formal discussion speech, because in that particular speech you're not allowed to raise anything on a particular speech like verbally. So what I would suggest is, just like substantial chit, you can raise a point of order, factual point of order on somebody's speech when they are in a formal session. It is not restricted for any other sessions as well. You can raise a chit wise like point of order at any point of time. However, verbal points of orders are allowed during opening statements and GSL, which is not allowed during formal session. That was the okay. There's a question. How many press releases will we have to make by the end of the committee? There is no compulsion as such. If you want, you can go like throughout the committee without having any press release. There is no compulsion as such. If you want to not have any paperwork, that's completely completely fine. It's not something that we will be
would we be marked on documentation?
Yes, you will be. It's not about just having a documentation, but also about what the content of the documentation will be. So, however, I would recommend, please don't go after marks. Enjoy this as a simulation that PCGT has tried to create for you in the most healthiest way possible. So please don't go after marks and all those kind of things. Because if you have the marks kind of orientation, then it will not be much a very fruitful session as such. So that's one thing. Will you accept Reuters reports? Yes, I will be, but again, it depends on the content, because these kind of organizations like Reuters or Al Jazeera and all this kind of like organizations as well, which are news organizations, although international, they are not government bodies or intergovernmental organizations. So I would not be accepting it as a thumb rule. Sure, you can probably submit it, but I will not be accepting a point of order just because it's Reuters. I'll be looking at the content, because these kind of even BBC, all news channels, I won't be accepting as a thumb rule. You can send it, but the content of it matters. I cannot accept it just because it's an international thing. So that's the kind of thing, because these kind of channels also have a Western bias. So that's the thing. So anyway, so that's about what that is. Where was I? So yeah, so this is what a point of order is. Second point is a point of personal privilege. A point of personal privilege is basically, say for example, right now when Tejasvi Yadav was asking a question, I could not hear him. So I can raise a point of personal privilege that, hey, I cannot hear you. Can you please refresh or switch to a better network? All those kind of things. Point of personal privilege basically means that you are discomforted by your surroundings, or you're discomforted by somebody who's speaking. They are inaudible, they are not understandable, all those kind of things. So we can rectify those things, especially in an online format. Those things can always arise. So points of personal privilege are allowed to that extent. A point of personal privilege is the only point that can interrupt anybody at any point of time. It's the most disruptive point ever. But I would suggest that you don't do it unless it's absolutely necessary, because otherwise it disrupts the speakers and that's kind of looked down upon. Anyway, so that's what. Yes.
So one last query. So what is the maximum total time of a moderated caucus?
There is no set time as such, but nothing goes beyond 30 minutes as such usually, because there aren't enough speakers as such. Yeah. But however, while setting a time period, I would suggest just like the efforts that you put in for lobbying and suggesting a topic as such, put the same amount of efforts for talking and discussing about what time period you should set. Otherwise, people just get discouraged. Otherwise, you won't understand how many people want to speak on that topic that way. So that's what I would suggest. Anyway, so that's what a point of parliamentary inquiry, point of personal privilege is. The third point is a point of parliamentary inquiry. Point of parliamentary inquiry is basically where you have a question to the EB regarding something. Say, for example, you want to ask, hey, when is the break? Or say, for example, hey, what is the procedure to, raise a motion? All these questions that you're asking me right now in this session, these can be parliamentary inquiries in a normal, when we are in session. So any question that is to the EB is a parliamentary inquiry. Any question that is
point
to
of parliamentary inquiry right now. Sir, as this is an AIPPM, so should we call it a point of parliamentary inquiry or a point of inquiry? Because in some of the MUNs which I had attended, the chairs were asking us to state it as a point of inquiry rather than a point of parliamentary inquiry, as AIPPM is not a parliamentary committee. So I just had a query, because it again depends upon the ROPs which you're following.
Sure. So I wrote it as parliamentary inquiry because that's the general format that is followed. But if terminology matters a lot to you guys, then you can use it as point of inquiry as well. But
so it was just a small query. And one more thing, sir, which ROPs are we emphasizing on completely? Because AIPPM does not have any particular ROPs.
Party representative, if you have read through the rules of procedure, we have set a particular ROPs, set over there. So please go through it. I think that will be there in your delegate resources. We have set as to what ROP will be following. It's not any particular format as such, but something that is a combination of a lot of things. So I would suggest that you read through those resources before you ask a question. So anyway, that's about it. So yeah, the third point that I was going for is what I was explaining is a point of parliamentary inquiry, or a point of inquiry, as you might call it. So it's basically an inquiry to the EB as to whether or about something, about a procedural question or about something else as well. It can be anything. So a point of parliament inquiry basically is a question to the EB. A point of information is basically a question to the a particular person's speech. That is a difference that you have. Both are queries, but of a different nature. So that's one thing. You can ask a point of inquiry at any time, but except when somebody else is speaking in a particular speech. So you cannot interrupt someone when you are when their particular speech is going on. You have to wait for that speech to end before you can ask a point of inquiry. So that's about it. Yeah. So then is a point of wait just a second. I'll just share the screen so that everybody can see it. Okay, my internet is doing some somersaults. Second. Can someone share the screen in terms of the ROP session? Ayush, can you do it?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So there's one more right that you have as a delegate, not as a delegate, as a party representative. It basically means that when a particular person has offended you, because it happens a lot in Indian committees, then I would suggest. First of all, I would discourage people from actually offending people, because that's not something that is very constructive in a debate. So, but by chance, if it happens, then there is recourse to the person who is being offended. to raise a right of reply. A right of reply, yes? Is there a question? Okay, all right. So a right of reply basically means that if a particular party member feels personally insulted by a party member, as can be seen in the screen as well, you can have a right of reply. This means, like, say for example, you calling cuss words or you saying something which is derogatory, personally really offending to the other particular person as such, then the particular person who is a victim of that particular abuse can raise a right of reply and can reply to that particular thing, saying, justifying or clarifying why it is offensive and all those kind of things. So it will be highly looked down upon by the EB if you use these devices to offend people. I would highly recommend that you not offend people. So that's what a right of reply is. But however, it won't be allowed for every kind of scene. So like for example, if I am if I'm speaking and if you just find something subjective part of my speech as offending to you, it will not be treated as something which is offending as such. So there is a threshold of what an offense means. It has to be very, very personal and something which is completely derogatory to like your portfolio as such. So that's why we will have adjudication of a right of reply as well, just like a point of order, which will be done by the EB. So yeah, there's a question I think in the chat. Second. Can we interrupt somebody's speech during an informal session? Yes, because in an informal session, you don't have any speeches as such. It's completely informal. It's not something that's a formal session. So we will not be there as EBs only. So it can be a conversation. It can be just a general chaos. It can be anything. So there's no speech as such. So you can interrupt anybody. That's completely fine. But however, I would say just be very civil when you do that, because yeah, we want to be fruitful and constructive over here and not be destructive. Are we allowed to ask counter questions? Yes, of course, you are allowed to ask counter questions when you are in an informal session. You can also interrupt somebody in an informal session. That's completely your prerogative, because it's an informal session. It's like an unmoderated caucus. Nothing is being moderated by the EB as such. So that's about it. Can you scroll down? Yeah, okay, then we are done, I guess, because I already discussed the paperwork, so we are done then. So yeah, so to sum up, paperwork is not mandatory. It is something which is recommended, but it is not something which is mandatory. It is there as an option for you to use, but it is not something which is completely mandatory as such. So sure then. So that's about the ROP session. अब तो 2 बार session हो गया यार. अब तो पता चल गया हो गया what like ROP is. So let's move on to the debate then. I hope everybody's here. Ayush, you wanted to clarify, na? Timer and all?
Yes. So a few things, everyone. So when we open the floor for motions, so what you have to do is in the chat box you can just type Y. All right. So when we open when we ask for motions, you can just type Y in the Zoom chat box, and we will be recognizing any like Rangan said, we will be recognizing any 3 people from that, and then you can raise your motion. And on voting on those specific motion, you can use either the raise hand option or the yes or no option in the participants box. Is that clear? Does anyone have any doubts regarding that?
Sir, as a small suggestion, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
could we use the raise hand option to be recognized? Is that possible? Just asking.
Recognized for motions?
Yes, sir.
Sure, yeah. But okay, yeah, sure. We can use the raise hand option.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
All right then. So yeah, so was the timer thing clarified for everyone, or is there any doubt? So basically, if there is a 1 minute time limit, then we'll be giving you a reminder in the chat itself when it's when only 10 seconds are left for your speech. So say for example, if it's a 1 minute timer, then on the 50th second we'll remind you to wrap up. If it's a 90-second timer, then we'll be reminding you at 1 minute 20 seconds as such. All those kind of things. So yeah.
Yeah, actually, we will be screen sharing the timer so you can see for yourself that how much time you have left.
Yeah,
other than
that also works. Yeah,
yeah, if it's okay with you, Rangan.
Yeah, completely. I think it's very convenient.
Yeah.
All right, then let's start. Just a second. Is there a participant list where we can like take attendance from?
Matrix is given in the group.
Yeah,
We can.
Acha, acha. Do you want to take attendance, Anagha?
Yeah, sure. Prakash Javdekar.
Present.
Uddhav Thackeray.
Present.
Nitish Kumar.
Present and voting, ma'am.
Dev Gowda. Arvind Kejriwal.
Present and voting.
Shashi Tharoor.
Present.
Chirag Paswan. Akhilesh Yadav. Akhilesh Yadav. Sudesh Mato. What? Is she audible to others or just?
No, ma'am. She's not audible.
yeah,
Okay,
sure.
thank you. I'm assuming she's saying present. Mamta Banerjee.
Present and voting.
Supriya Saleh.
Present, ma'am.
Deepak Dhavlikar.
Present, ma'am.
Yogendra Yadav.
Present, ma'am.
Yes, Sudesh Mato. You've raised your hand.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I'm present and voting. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. Okay, Devi Gowda. Chandrababu Naidu.
Present, ma'am.
Chandrasekhar Rao.
Present, ma'am.
Edapadi K. Palaniswamy.
Present, ma'am.
Asaduddin Oasis.
Present, ma'am.
Raju Shetty.
Present and voting.
Anupriya Patel.
Present, ma'am.
Mayawati.
Present, ma'am.
Raj Thackeray.
Present.
Sajad Ghani Lone.
Present, ma'am.
Naveen Patnaik.
Present and voting.
Harsimrit Kaur.
Present and voting.
Sitaram Yeshuri.
Present in voting, ma'am.
M.K. Stalin.
Present, ma'am.
Lal Duhawama.
Present and voting.
Tejasvi Yadav.
Present and voting.
Jagan Mohan Reddy.
Present.
Karya Thomas.
Present.
Rangaswamy. I repeat, Rangaswamy. Chandrachudan. Chandrachudan. Okay.
Present and voting.
Okay. Kenya. KG Kenya.
Present, ma'am.
Arshad Madani.
Present, ma'am.
Ajit Pramod Kumar Jogi.
Present voting, ma'am.
Sova Kiran.
Present.
Kader Mohiddin.
Present and voting.
Rio.
Present and voting.
Hemant Soren.
Present and voting.
Is there anyone who hasn't been recognized? Okay, then, Rangan, you can take over.
Anagha, I think we've missed Lalming Tanga.
Sorry?
Serial number 9 in the matrix. I think we missed Lalming Tanga.
She won't be joining us.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how many people do we have in the committee?
We have 37.
37. All right. So procedural like इसके लिए
18.
majority will stand at 18. Actually, 18. 19.
19.
Yeah, sorry, 19. मेरा maths थोड़ा सा weak है. Anyway, so 19 is the majority mark for procedural votes. For 1/3 signatories, I think 1/3 will be. Okay, I'll have to calculate what 1/3 will be. But anyway, we'll come to that when the paperwork is going to come. Anyway, so all right. So before we start, I would just like to wish everyone good luck for this MUN. I hope you guys have researched very well. So, sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. All right. So,
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
please keep it very civil. There are certain challenges in the online format as well. So just keep it very civil, and let's hope that none of these obstacles like stop us from having a fruitful debate. All right then. So. Yeah, so the EB will be looking for motions to open debate. Are there any motions? If there are, you can write Y, or you can probably raise your hand. All right. So we recognize N. Sova Kiran, Tejasvi Yadav, and Shashi Tharoor. All right. N. Sova Kiran, you have the floor.
So to tell my motion, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Motion to open the opening statements list. Per speaker time being 120 seconds, 2 minutes.
All right. So that motion is in order. The next person who was recognized was, I think, Tejasvi Yadav. Tejasvi Yadav, you have your floor. Mr. Yadav, your speech is not coming very clear. Can you? Is it just me, or is he lagging a lot?
He's lagging a lot.
It's lagging.
Yes.
Tejasvi Yadav, can you switch to a better network or something, because your speech is coming very robotic. Can't really understand you.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's completely fine now. Yeah.
Yeah, I second the previous motion.
All right, we'll be recognizing one more speaker. I think Jagan Mohan Reddy had raised their hand, so we'll be recognizing you as the third.
So mine was the same motion.
Same motion. All right. Okay. This third person who was recognized was Shashi Tharoor. So you have the floor, Mr. Tharoor.
So thank you so much, respected moderator. So my motion is the same motion as Mr. Sovika.
All right then. So we will be moving into voting now. Is Ayush there?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you do the poll thingy?
No, we won't be using polls, so we can just use the raise hand feature because polls cannot.
All right. That also works. Yeah, that's true. So okay then. All those who vote yes for this motion, please raise your hands. Wait, how many are there?
23.
23 or 20?
27,
27.
27, 28.
28. It's going on. Oh shit. 30. All right. So with that overwhelming majority, this motion passes. So we are in opening statements now. All those who wish to speak, you can just unraise your hand, I guess, or lower your hand because we will be taking speakers now. Everyone just lower your hands.
Point of personal privilege, sir. So sorry to interrupt this committee at this moment of time. Sir, I'll recommend one thing. So for the voting procedure, we can use the yes and no. And for recognizing the speakers, we can use the raise hand option so that it becomes not confusing. Probably
But
we can.
okay, I mean that makes sense. But again, yes and no becomes too chaotic when it's becoming verbal, or like when it's through the chat. Also, we have to keep a track of all those kind of things.
No,
so
sir, there's an option in Zoom, sir. Like I'll show you. Yes.
Yes,
I have
like
put
we
a
can
yes, sir.
raise hands. You can also do a yes like this.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Where is the option?
In front of you.
So in the participants box.
Participants box. Okay. Just a second. Oh yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, that's true. All right. Yeah, we can do that then. For the
Exactly.
like for future voting procedures, we will do the yes and no thing, and for recognition, we will go with raise hand feature. All right. Okay. So all those who wish to speak, and list their names in the opening statements, please raise your hand. Okay. Sitaram Yechuri. Sitaram Yechuri. Then Chandra Chuda. Once you are recognized, please lower your hand so that I don't recognize you twice. Sitaram Yechuri, Chandra Chuda, Jagan Mohan Reddy. Scaria Thomas. Prakash Javadekar. N. Sobakiran. Mamta Banerjee. Supriya Sule. Ajit Jogi. Lalduha Wama. Harsimrat Kaur Badal. Shashi Tharoor. Nupyo Rio. Raj Thakre. K. Chandrasekhar Rao. All right, this is all that we're recognizing for now. Once we come to come to the exhaustion of this list, we will be asking for more speakers. Is that okay? All right. So with that, we will be now recognizing Mr. Sitaram Yechuri.
Just a second, we will be sharing a timer so that you can see like how much time you have left. Just a second. Can everyone see it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Ayush.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right then. So Mr. Yechuri, you have the floor for 2 minutes. Everybody else, please like mute yourselves because otherwise it will be very, very disruptive for the speaker. All right, Yechuri, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Greeting respected moderators and everyone present here. The needs of the environmental law, the needs of a protection and conservation of the environmental and sustainability use of a nature resources is reflected in the constitutional framework of India and also in the international commitment of India. The constitution under Party IVA are Art 51A fundamental deeds cast a duty and every citizen of India to protect the improve the natural environment including the forest, lake, river and wildlife, and to have a compassion for living creatures. Further, the Constitution of the India under Part IV, Art 48A, Directive Principle of State Police Policies, stipulated that the state shall endeavor to protect the improve the environmental and the safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. Several environmental protection legislation existed even before independence of India. However, the two truths for putting a force a well-developed framework came only after the UN conference on the human environmental after the Stockholm Conference, the National Council of Environmental Policy and Planning was set up in 1972 within the Department of the Science and Technology to establish a regulator body to look after the environment related issues. This council later evolved into a full-fledged Minister of the Environmental and Forest (MOEF). MOEF
Mr.
was
Yechuri,
established.
Mr. Yechuri, your time has elapsed. It's actually been well more than 10 seconds as well. So if you wish to probably like push forth your points later on, if you think that your content is not exhausted, you can ask questions later on, or you can probably use another speech to probably do that. But for now, your speech has elapsed.
Yes, sir.
So sorry to interrupt because there's a procedure, so we have to follow it. Anyway, so thank you, Mr. Yechuri, for that speech. All right, so there's a question on the chat. I want to clarify it for everyone, for everybody's benefit. Do we have to give the opening speech for 2 minutes, or can we stop in between? It's completely your prerogative. If you have a lot of content, you can finish your 2 minutes. If you wish to, if you wish to stop in between, that's completely your choice. However, if you have a lot of time left, and if you want to, if you have already stopped your speech, and if you don't want to say anything more, then you can yield your time to the chair or the another delegate if you want, or probably yield to points information if you wish to. Yes, Mr. Hemant Soren, do you want to say something? All right, okay, cool. So, all right then. Thank you, Mr. Yechuri, for that speech. I now invite Chandra Chur. Yes, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Good morning, moderators, sir, and my fellow members. I'm Chandra Chudan, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you in this session. During the past 5 decades, India's achievement in the field of science and technology have been unarguably prodigious. If one were to dive deep into the knowledge that we have gathered in the last few decades, they would discover unprecedented expertise built up in space research, nuclear engineering, production of steel, petroleum, chemical, etc. But with it have come the unintended side effects that include the Ganga becoming the most polluted cultural river in the world. In 2020, it is simply impossible to ignore the fact that mark our country's forest cover, cleaner water supply, and air index is lower than ever. The time has now come to address these issues and face their potential destructive results. India has already employed several latest technologies and thoughtful solutions, but it won't be wrong to say that they are not enough. In this discussion, I hope to find prospective solutions to many such problems, aided by my fellow colleagues. I hope all of us sitting here today will come up with the ideas for a better country and prove worthy of the trust that the members of the Indian Legislative Assembly put in us all those years ago. I wish this to be a fruitful session during which all of us have an opportunity to present our unique ideas and to end it on a good note with high hopes for our environment. Thank you.
So you're not audible. You're on mute. Yeah.
Extremely sorry for that. Yeah. So Mr. Chandrachudan, you have 36 seconds left. How do you want to yield your time?
I would like to yield it to some other delegate.
Okay. So when you're yielding it to some other delegate, they have to be informed that you're going to be yielding your time like later on. So is there anybody that you want to yield it to who knows that you're going to yield the time?
So there is no such person.
All right. So do you want to yield it to points of information or comments as such?
Sure.
So but what do you want to yield it to? The points of information or comments? Like you can't have both.
So points of information.
Points of information. All right. So we will be recognizing 3 points of information. If you want to ask your POI, just raise your hand in the chat so we can recognize you. Second. Wait, is it just me or I? Okay, yeah. 3 points of information, right? Nitish Kumar, followed by Prakash Javadekar, followed by.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I forgot to unraise my hand. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to raise my hand. I'm so sorry.
All right. So I'll just ask again so that other people also know it. Anybody who wants to ask a point of information to Mr. Chandrachudan's speech, please raise your hand. Or Arvind Kejriwal, Shashi Tharoor, and Sajid Ghani Lone. So first we have Arvind Kejriwal. Yeah.
Good morning to the esteemed executive board and all the parliamentarians. I had a question to Mr. Chandrachudan about are you with the environmental laws or against the current environmental law, or in this committee will you be stressing upon the implementations or just the changes in the drafts?
I won't like to take an extreme side because obviously as times change, we need to change certain laws. Amendments are made regularly, and as for what I aim for this, I would like to if for implementation and if changes are required, then we need to do that also for our country.
Sir?
Yes.
I believe Prakash Javadekar was recognized first.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You may have the second question. It's fine. Prakash Javadekar, you have the floor.
Excuse me, sir. So wouldn't you unpause the timer?
No, it's fine. We are recognizing questions anyway. So I've recognized 4 people anyway. So they will just ask their questions up, and then we will end the speech for your side, if that's okay. Yeah, Prakash Javadekar, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, so you said that the forest cover in India is lower than ever, but the recent statistics revealed by the Environment Ministry says that the population of tigers has doubled, and that can only happen if the wildlife habitat and the forest cover has increased. So don't you think the forest cover has actually increased in India?
Yeah, the statistics say the hectares have actually gone up, especially there's been a large increase from 2018 to 2020. But the overall, the larger picture, it's went down from when these laws, especially the Environmental Protection Act, when it was established back in 1986. Since then, it has been a downward fall.
Need to follow up.
Okay, granted.
Ma'am, so are you saying that the Environmental Protection Act is the reason why the forest cover in India has gone down?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay, then I think you have your answer. So, who do we have recognized next? Anagha, did you note it down?
Ajit.
Ajit, okay. Yeah, Ajit, you have the floor.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and the fellow delegates of this committee. India, a vast country that holds a population of almost 1.38 billion crore, which is equivalent to 17.7% of the total world's population.
Just a second. Ajit Jogi, just a second. Is it your speech? No, I asked for a question.
I'm
Like,
sorry, I don't think I raised my hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, all right. Okay. Who was recognized next, Anagha? Because we are still on questions right now on Mr. Chandrachudan's speech.
I think it was Shashi Tharoor.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Anagha?
Shashi
Who was the next one? Shashi Tharoor? All right. Shashi Tharoor, you have the floor. You can ask a question.
So thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. Greetings to all parliamentarians. So Chandrachudanji, my question to you would be that you are the General Secretary or Secretary General of the Revolutionary Socialist Party, and you have been giving a lot of speeches on getting a revolution in society. And here you're talking about environmental solutions and resolutions. So my question to you would be that when and what is the revolution you want to get in the field of environment to make the future of our next generation secure?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Tharoor. Yeah, there are the main change I would like to make is that I'm very much concerned about the fuel usage, the fossil fuel usage of our country. It is estimated by 2030, 53% of our financial resources will go towards fossil fuel. India is one of the world's largest importers and exporters of fossil fuels, and unlike the forest cover, in which there have been some positive developments in the pollution of India, the figure has only gone down. And the fossil fuel, it's increased year by year. And I have some figures. In 2019, there were only about 21.5 million oil-powered vehicles were sold, and only about a lakh of electrical vehicles were sold. So I would certainly like to change the main usage of. I would like to bring down the main usage of fossil fuels in our country, because that is a big problem. I hope that answers your question.
All right. I thank you for that answer. Who was the next person recognized for asking a question? I think there was the last one.
We were only entertaining 3 questions.
All right. Okay. Okay then. The next person who has their opening statement is Mr. Jagan Mohan Reddy.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Chair, for providing me with the opportunity to express myself. I strongly believe that the most contributing factor for the environmental problem is the population growth. The increase in population leads to a great demand of resources. According to the Malthusian theory of population growth, the rate of population growth is in geometrical progression. That is, it gets doubled. Whereas the rate of production is in arithmetic progressions. That is, it goes in this sequence 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, etc. Hence, the production to keep in pace with the population growth, the concept of urbanization and industrialization have become important in the past and even in the present. In the recent past, that is the post-colonial and the colonial period. The meaning of the term time has been completely changed in the modern sense. Mostly time is associated with monetary value in the modern societies. Population growth is linked to overall levels of economic development in every society. Follows a typical pattern of development related to population growth. There are 3 basic phases of population growth. The first stage is a low population growth in a society that is underdeveloped, because due to the lack of facilities, the birth rate and the death rate are equally high. So there is no change in population. And I'm not discussing the second stage right now. Let me come to the third stage. where the society is developed and ideas of population control and the literacy rate increases. So the replacement level is equal to the number of deaths. So there is not much increase in population, and we don't need to really disturb the habitat of the wildlife. And the transitional stage in between, which is the second stage, it involves okay, it is the movement from the backward to the advanced stage. So in this there is something such as population explosion, which is and this is the stage which India is undergoing right now. And the population increase leads to the increase in the increase of demand for more resources, overcrowding, contribution to noise pollution, water pollution, increase in tons of garbage production every day, deforestation and further global warming, displacement of tribals, and destruction of habitats of animals. So this is the phase which I am covering in my speech right now. Hence, one of the major steps to be taken
Please
is to
conclude,
concentrate
sir.
on. Yes, ma'am, this is my last statement. Hence, one of the major steps to be taken is to concentrate on the enhancement of idea of population control and also work towards literacy and awareness regarding the environment. Thank you.
All right. Since there is no time left for your speech, we will not be asking you for yields or anything as such. So the next person that we have is Mr. Scaria Thomas. You have the floor for 2 minutes.
Sir, 1 second. Sir, could I start?
You may start whenever you want.
The earth is what we all have in common. Hence, protecting it becomes a responsibility. One of the latest reports shows India had the worst air quality. I, Scaria Thomas, agree that COVID had got some positive effects on the environment, but it had some negative impacts also. Indeed, COVID has brought in some challenges. There is a need to review the national environment policy and past environment policy. Currently, I would like to emphasize on some recent problems, which is an aware to many. About 57% of slum dwellers in Mumbai have tested positive for antibodies for the coronavirus from a random sample size of 7,000 people, according to the survey jointly conducted by Mumbai's municipality, a government think tank Niti Aayog, and the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. We could also see an increase in waste and a reduction in recycling waste. The decline in production or the closure of enterprises and organization in the public and private sector would result in a fall of income and increase in debt. Now, I would emphasize on post-COVID challenges for the industry sector, which affects the environment. The challenges the industry sector will face. The primary strategic challenge for industries and organizations will be to deal with reduced demand and shrinking markets. Given the loss of livelihood, reduction in income, and economic depression, consumers will postpone or become very conservative in buying products and services. For organizations, this implies in a decline in revenues. If they intend to remain profitable, they will have to reduce costs. They may have a cut down activities that may be regarded as non-essential in the short run, as well as reduce staff. Investments will have to get postponed, new hiring to be stopped. All of these will while effective for profitability in the short run, are dangerous for the long run. Organizations need to be especially careful about reducing functions and activities such as research and development that often seem non-essential in the short run but are important for survival in the long run. They should not mistakenly consider that what is not as unnecessary. Likewise, when employees are laid off, organizations often lose high quality talent. Moreover, it leaves a permanent scar in the minds of the employees who are retained because of the signals.
Sir, please wrap up.
This would cause unemployment. This would cause unemployment. It would also cause monopolies. Thank you.
All right. Delegates, sorry, you're please requested to see the timer. I think it's very convenient to write on your screen. So when you see your timer has elapsed, please conclude with the last 1 or 2 statements. Okay. Otherwise, it's kind of unfair because other people are following the time as well. So anyway, so
sir,
thank you for that. Yeah, sure.
Sir, could we get like a tab, sir? Because we are not on the Zoom screen, we are switching screens. So could we get a tab or something like that?
Sure.
I put it on the chat box.
Yeah. Does that work?
Sir, actually, I'm switching screens, so I can't see the chat as well. So it would be better if you could give me a tap or something.
All right, we'll let them know that.
We'll let you know then. 10 seconds before your timer has elapsed, we will let you know with one tap. So that's an indicator that you have to finish or wrap up in 10 seconds. Is that cool?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right. I thank you for that speech. We now invite Prakash Javadekar. You have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir, for the recognition. So firstly, beginning with a quote from our very own Prime Minister who said, connecting with nature means to connect with ourselves. If we do so, we nurture a better planet. This government's ideology in regards with environment has always been development without destruction, which can be reflected in various environmental policies of ours, including the Environmental Impact Assessment Draft of 2020. And I believe this has been heavily criticized by the opposition. But what we fail to understand is that just because the previous government lacked in efficient exploitation of natural resources and was involved in one of the largest natural resource allocation scam doesn't mean that this government can't make development policies. And this doesn't mean that we do not care for the environment. We of course do. This government prioritizes environment above everything else. But what we also care for is the development of the nation and the fast growth of a nation. Our very own Prime Minister was given the title of Champion of the Earth by the United Nations. We ran one of the largest cleaning initiatives in the world, which was the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Another recent fact is that we have doubled our tiger population, and this means that there has been a substantial increase in forest cover and wildlife habitat. This shows the intent of this government towards the betterment of the environment. Another criticism we've received is that we are cutting down trees for industrial development, which is detrimental for the environment. But what the opposition says that we've cut 68 lakh trees. But what they do not say is that we've planted 6.2 crore trees as compensation. So this is what is being done by the opposition. Therefore, one suggestion is that please have the entire knowledge of the subject, because half knowledge is pretty dangerous, as everyone says. Moving on, we believe that the situation of the environment depends on the thought process of the people.
Concluding remarks, sir.
We have integrated the environment education in the new education policy, which was announced recently, so as to grow environment awareness from the grassroots level. Thank you.
I thank Prakash ji for that speech. Since you have no time left, we will move on to the next speaker in the list. We will take Sova Kiran. You have the floor.
Yes, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Right, okay. One of the first conditions of happiness is that the link between the man and the nature shall not be broken. When Leo Tolstoy said this, he had something to say. According to World Economic Forum report on global risks 2019, environmental issues continue to remain as some of the top line risks faced by the world today. Climate change, in addition to this, acts as a risk multiplier and further exacerbates the existing environmental and ecosystem challenges of constrained availability and steady depletion of natural resources, including biodiversity. Why should the environment be taken so much care of? Because irreparable damages aren't wanted. Toxic waste need to be taken proper care of. We believe that with rapid economic growth comes an increased output and consumption, which turns the cost imposed on the environment to the greater. Increased consumption of fossil fuels can lead to immediate problems such as poor air quality and soot. This is why we believe we need to stop them. Manipur faces extreme troubles in implementing its strategies for climate changes and in some aspects to the population growth. The state of Manipur houses more than 3 million people and is also the home to beautiful valleys, forests, land and natural landscape. 90% of the total land in my state belongs to hilly areas. Although as a state we have been extremely successful in several projects and initiatives. Where the national forest coverage target is 33%, Manipur has achieved 80%. Manipur's people party today, and I as its representative today looks at the nature of use, conservation and enhancement of natural resources in the state. I And we at Manipur's People Party deliberately focus on extensive social dialogue and public deliberation as a whole. To end on a two-liner couplet, हर दिन अखबार खोलो कुछ खास मिलेगा, तुम्हें बदलते हुए भारत का एहसास मिलेगा. Thank you.
Since you have 4 seconds left, we will be I'll be asking you whether we want to yield it to points of information or comments as such.
I'll yield it to points of information.
Okay, we'll be recognizing only 1 point of information because there's only 4 seconds left. So we recognize Nitish Kumar. You have the floor, Nitish Kumar, for your question.
Thank you, Chair. So the question I would like to ask Mr. N. Sovakiran is that what steps are you taking to ensure that your people in Manipur are following and they are implementing the laws of environment like which are there in the constitution, and you have encouraged them to implement. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you for the question, Mr. Nitish Kumar. The people in Manipur have already priding over the fact that we have achieved the national forest coverage, like the forest coverage at 80%, which is already showing that the people are highly interested in protecting the environment. Also, we face a geological challenge, sir, in the state of Manipur, because 90% of the total land area is covered by hills, valleys, and land areas which we cannot touch because they are reserved for habitat, and we do not wish to destroy their habitat for our purposes. Next, we are also implementing air pollution indexes. For example, we have controlled the statistics, and we have seen that the air pollution index is quite go down after we introduce several norms for air pollution. So those are the steps which we are implementing right now. More of the steps I will elaborate in my further moderated caucus. We can discuss upon. Thank you so much.
I thank Nitish Kumar for that question and the previous speaker for that answer. We now move on to the next speaker in the opening statements list. We have Mamta Banerjee. You have the floor for 2 minutes.
The environment is everything that isn't me. These words of Sir Albert Einstein are the words by which Mamta Banerjee truly believes, and is therefore honored to be a part of this committee to discuss on the environmental issues. Pollution, poor waste management, industrialization, deforestation are some of the reasons which have caused the environmental issues. These issues have affected each and every sector in different ways. So, although there are many environmental regulations, they are not that successful and they need to work upon in different aspects. Therefore, in these 2 days of the committee, most of these problems will be tried to cover in a detailed manner, and the committee will also try to come up with best of the solutions to cope up with the environmental issues. We also try to, as we know that it is very essential to protect and conserve the environment and also help India to develop. Thank you.
Sir, I think you're on mute.
I'm so sorry for that. Anyway, so you have about 45 seconds left, Mamta Banerjee. How would you like to yield your time?
Yield to points of order, points of information. Sorry.
Points of information. All right. So we'll be recognizing about 5 points of information. Are there any points of information? You can just raise your hand in the chat, or sorry, in the participants. We'll be recognizing Pcgt Nyp first. We'll be recognizing Prakash Javadekar, Naveen Patnaik, Supriya Sule, and Arvind Kejriwal. So first we have Pcgt Nyp. You have the floor. Yeah, you have the floor. KG Kenny, are you there? You had raised your hand for a POI, a point of information.
Yes, sir. I just, sir, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yes.
Hello, sir. I got disconnected right at the time you called my name. Okay, sir. So, my question to Ms. Mamta Banerjee is that how do you plan to increase the to increase the forest cover and to improve the environment of India? As you said, you will the committee will look forward to that. How do you plan to do such things?
So see, different sectors need different ways to cope up. Like we can't just give a common solution to all of them. So as and when the topics get started, and I'll cover up it in my speeches.
Okay, thank you for that answer. We wait. Have you finished your answer, or I'm sorry if I interrupted? Okay, who was the next question? Who was the next person?
Prakash Javadekar.
Prakash Javadekar. You have the floor.
Thank you for the recognition. Ma'am, so owing to the recent disastrous cyclone that had hit West Bengal, has the West Bengal government developed a plan of action so as to compensate for the loss of vegetation caused due to the cyclone?
So I would like to answer via chat.
All right. The next question is by Naveen Patnaik, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, Naveen Patnaik.
Yes, Naveen Patnaik, you have the floor.
Thank you for the recognition. Ma'am, you clearly stated in your speech that many problems about environment and solutions, or you are here to find a solution.
So could you repeat?
Naveen Patnaik, your voice was cracking. Yeah, could you repeat?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Ma'am, you clearly stated in your speech that about many environmental problems. So have you find out any solutions on that, or you are here to find out?
Oh, sir, of course we are here to find out the solutions on it, and they will be try to cover upon. And one of the solution which I have right now is, like, we all know that industrialization and all of that is necessary for the development of the country. So there is this CSR, corporate social responsibility, where the 2% of the person's income is used for the social work. So this can be used to, compensate the harm which they have created to the environment. I hope it answers your questions.
So P to follow up.
Okay.
Yeah, granted. You may ask a follow-up.
Ma'am, have you executed that?
What?
Ma'am, have you executed that?
No, sir, that haven't been executed. That's why it's a solution which can be implemented.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that question. We now have the next person is Sova Kiran, if I'm not wrong, Ayush.
No, it's Supriya Sule.
It's Supriya Sule. I'm sorry. Supriya Sule, you have the floor.
Yes. Of train.
Supriya Sule, your voice is cracking a lot. Can you switch to a better network?
Yes. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yeah, now we can. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, why there is still uses of coal train in West Bengal?
What?
Why there is uses of coal train in West Bengal?
Ma'am, could you be a bit more clear?
Could you type out your question in the chat if you want? That's also okay.
Yes, I will.
So can I put forward my question till then?
No. We just like
Okay,
finishing
sir.
up with this question. We'll wait for a bit. It's fine.
Sure, sir.
Supriya Sole, are you typing out your question? All right. The question is, why is there still use of coal train in West Bengal? Mamta Banerjee, if you wish to answer.
Yes, sir. So now we know that the environment, the fossil fuels, especially coal, is causing damage. But we cannot look. We cannot let go the thing that our country needs development, and therefore there's the usage of coal trains done. As you know, Raniganj in West Bengal is the highest producer of coal in West Bengal. So therefore, the usage of the coal train is done.
So free to follow up?
Yes, one follow-up granted.
Yes. So why didn't you use electrical trains? You can also use that.
Ma'am, see, for the production of electricity also the coal is used. So any which ways the coal, if we see that it is gonna affect the environment. So it's not like if we stop using the coal trains and we switch to electrical trains, it will, reduce. Because there also for the production of electricity, we need coal and other fossil fuels. Thank you.
All right. Is there one last question
Excuse me,
left?
sir.
Wait, I think somebody had. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I have a point of parliamentary inquiry.
Sure. Go ahead.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You may ask your question.
How exactly to Yes, sir. How to exactly raise a motion? Because I've raised my hand. So can I just come in between when there's a break and say that I want to raise a motion?
No. So basically, when I asked for a motion, so right now we are in opening statements. After a couple of more opening statements, we will ask for motions. When we ask for motions, you can raise your hand. We will recognize you, and then you can raise your motion. Is that fine?
Okay, sir.
All right. Okay then. So I think Arvind Kejriwal is next.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, the EB for recognizing me. My question to Mamta Banerjee stands as follows. Right. So Ganga, the river Ganga, is the one of the main attractions in West Bengal. Also, reports say that West Bengal and UP discharges from the industries are the main reasons for the pollution of Ganga. Right. So only report also say that around only 49% discharge is treated, and more than 50% is being dumped into Ganga River. So what are your steps in reviving the glory of the river?
So thank you for the question, and to address is I would like to say that the West Bengal government, will try to see and that with different ways to cope up with it, as even we know the statistics, and even we know that it's one of the major tourist attraction. So we would come up with the steps in the water act, where we will talk about it. So there, I hope it resolves your query.
So please to follow up.
Not granted actually, because right now we're running
sir.
out of time.
Sure,
So
sir,
okay.
no problem.
So all right. So we have the next speaker, which is Supriya Sule.
Yes, sir. Honorable Moderator and everyone present here have a great, wonderful greeting. I, Supriya Sule, and my party NCP believe that environmental issue is the most important matter which should must discuss because it is a big issue in India and it is very harmful to everyone. I would like to highlight the situation of Indiwadi. At Indiwadi, the air pollution level is high because of only transportation. They did not burn anything and there is no factories near it. So I mean, we have to look upon this also, that this also becoming a big issue. Day by day, the problems are increasing. About 50% of deaths worldwide are caused by water, air, and soil pollution. An estimated 12.6 million deaths each year are attributed to unhealthy environments. And what just advertising and the government invest money in advertising. They can do instead of this, they can spend this money in social sector. I officially consider that we should discuss how we can control it. I wish we can make a free of environmental issues and happy, healthy India.
Ms. Sule, you have about 30 seconds left. So how would you like to yield?
Point of information.
Point of information. Okay. So we have Sorry?
Point of personal privilege.
Sure, yeah.
Since the speaker was the voice was cracking, so can the speaker repeat the part about something about advertisements?
Ms. Sule, do you want to clarify on what did you say about advertisements?
Yes, I was saying that the government should not waste money on advertising. They can use this money instead of that in social sector. It will be better for us.
Okay. Thank you so much. Is that clarified, Prakash ji?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll be we'll be recognizing 3 points of information. So all those who wish to ask questions, please raise your hand. Shashi Tharoor, Prakash Javadekar, and Asaduddin OAC. All right, Shashi Tharoor, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, respected moderator. So my question to you, Ms. Sule, would be that you talk about stopping advertising and using that money in the social sector and using that money optimally. But I would like to state something that 8.7% of India's GDP is spent in increasing our air quality. So my question to you would be that why only advertising, and why don't you suggest that we use all the money optimally and not only spend all the money on environment, because we are spending a lot, but the problem we have right now is not that we spend a lot, is that it's not channelized. So my question to you would be that why do you think that we should put more money into environment and other sectors when we are doing it, and not suggest channelizing the same?
Because I think this is not too much. I think that we should more spend, that's why.
So please to follow up.
Okay, one please to follow up granted.
Thank you so much, respected moderator. So, ma'am, you think that the money is insufficient, which is going into the environmental practices right now. So, it is, my question to you would be that, as I stated the figure as well, a World Bank study has stated this, that 8.7% of India's GDP, 8.7. I hope you understand how much is that goes into increasing our air quality. And as per the Environment Protection Act, air, it's not only air which is environment. Environmental protection is also related to water, is also related to many things, many aspects which cannot be stated right now, which will be elaborated many times, that they have been elaborated.
Mr. Tharoor,
so if you think
Mr. Tharoor,
yes sir.
What's your question? Please restrict it to 15-20 seconds, because you're asking a please.
My sincere apologies. So my question to you would be that if you think they are insufficient, why don't you suggest that they should be channelized? It's just like there are laws, but they aren't being implemented correctly. There is money which is being channelized correctly. So why don't you suggest channelization instead of putting so much money and instead of putting so much money into environment itself?
Look, I think that the environment, there is still many people who are insufficient, so I think that we should spend on that only. As much as the people are not, means what I can say, they are not sufficient with this much also. If we can see that many people are having problems, many people don't get money to, means go to the doctor because of only money they don't have. So if we do not waste money on advertising and we use that money to build up one government hospital which will be free for every poor people, so don't you think that it will be good for public?
All right, thank you for that answer. The second person was recognized to ask a question. Prakash Javadekar.
Thanks for the recognition. Ma'am, my question is, why not spend money on advertisements? Advertisements is now emerging as a medium of public awareness. And most of the people and the government publishes advertisements on through such a medium that is accessible to most of the people of India. Then why not spend money on advertisement and increase the awareness about environmental problems among the public?
Listen, we had did many advertisement, but what happened? It reduced. So I think we should not waste. We should think also that what they are feeling. Advertisement is good, but I think that we should not waste money too much on advertisement. Not only the advertisement is good for everything, and I don't think that no changes came in people showing their advertisement.
All right, thank you for that answer. The next person, Anagha.
Asaduddin, OSC.
Asaduddin, OSC. Yeah, you have the floor.
So as you said that we should not spend more money on advertisement, we should spend it on some other purpose, and doing advertisement has no effect on people. So what do you think? We should not advertise because advertisement is a medium through connecting public. So with हम अगर किसी का एडवर्टाइजमेंट करते हैं तो उस चीज से पब्लिक को भी अवेयरनेस रहता है कि हाँ हमें ऐसा करना चाहिए. तो अगर हम उनको एडवर्टाइजमेंट नहीं देंगे, उनको करेक्ट वे में नहीं लेके जाएंगे, तो उनको कैसे पता चलेगा कि हमें क्या करना है?
देखिए, सिर्फ एडवर्टाइजमेंट, मैं ये नहीं बोल रही हूँ कि एडवर्टाइजमेंट बंद कर दो. हम एडवर्टाइजमेंट करेंगे बट इतना नहीं, क्योंकि मुझे नहीं लगता कि इतना इफेक्ट भी हो रहा है. और अगर इतना होता तो आई थिंक कि बहुत चेंजेस हो जाता हमारे पॉल्यूशन में भी, बट मुझे नहीं लगता कि इतना भी हो रहा है. तो मुझे लगता है कि एडवर्टाइजमेंट में ज्यादा मनी वेस्ट करने की जरूरत नहीं है. सोशल सेक्टर में करेंगे तो आई थिंक वो ज्यादा अच्छा होगा.
So
All right. No. A free to follow up is not granted now. The next question.
We only had 3 questions from him.
Yeah. Oh, wait. All these 3 questions are done. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So the next opening statement is by Ajit Jogi. You have the floor.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes.
So the formal debate, so the formal session, as in the moderated caucuses and everything, will begin after the entire opening statement has been exhausted, right?
Yes. All right. So we move on to Ajit Jogi. You have the floor for 2 minutes, Mr. Ajit Jogi.
So point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting this at this time. So I wanted to know, will you be entertaining more opening statements after this list?
Yeah, of course. We will be finishing with the opening statements of everybody. Only then will we proceed to the moderated caucus. Anyway, so Ajit Jogi, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
A very good morning to the moderator, deputy moderator, and the fellow delegates of this committee. India, a vast country that holds a population of almost 1.38 billion crore, which is equivalent to 17.7% of the total world's population, generates almost 62 million tons of waste every year. Environmental problems arise when only less than 60% of this waste is collected and around 15% processed, and the remaining is left to pollute our natural resources. Myself, Ajit Pramod Kumar Jogi, being the first CM of Chhattisgarh, which is a beautiful, heavily forested state known for its waterfalls and temples, and is also a rich source of minerals, feel immense pleasure to be able to put forth my views and opinions on a matter such as the environmental laws in India.
Ma'am, can you just pause for a second? Yes,
Yes.
Prakash Javadekar, what's the personal privilege?
No, I could not hear anything.
Javadekar ji, this is your network problem because we could hear her very clearly.
Sorry, sir, for interruption.
Yeah, please just refresh or something. I'm so sorry for interrupting Ajit Jogi. It was a personal privilege point. That's why we had to interrupt you. Anyway, you can proceed from here.
I feel a very immense pleasure to be able to put forth my views and opinions on a matter such as the environmental laws in India, which my party and myself, the president of Janata Congress Chhattisgarh, believe is capital. Environment in itself refers to the surroundings or conditions in which a person, animal, or plant lives and operates. Myself, and I'm sure all my party members and the delegates present here in this committee, feel that it is our duty to provide our citizens as well as the coming generations with a clean, pollution-free environment. Although there are fundamental laws in our country that have been enforced, many incidences that have damaged our environment as well as the people of Chhattisgarh have been taking place. There have been numerous incidences of hazardous damage to villages and forests. Therefore, I feel essential steps must be taken for minimal damage.
Closing remarks, ma'am, please. Closing remarks.
Yeah, this is my last statement. And I sincerely hope that all of us get along and come up with solutions that can benefit all of us at the end of this committee. Thank you.
All right, I thank you for that speech. Since you have no time remaining, we will be moving on to the next speaker. We have Lal Dhuwan as a speaker. You have the floor for 2 minutes.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. Please continue.
I'll start.
Yes.
Greetings to all present in this committee. It was during the late 70s that the international feeling of conserving our environment appeared strongly amongst people. At that time, the rising cost of energy resources, especially petroleum, the environmental disruption and resource depletion caused by the so-called advanced technologies, rapid population growth, and massive rural-urban transfer and deteriorating quality of life in developing countries got the attention of UN General Assembly, which decided to convene the UN Conference on Human Environment at Stockholm in June 1972 to plan out the strategy for protection of the earth. In Stockholm, 113 nation states, including India, attended the conference and its preparatory committees. All unanimously agreed on the principles of satisfaction of basic human needs, that is alleviation of absolute poverty, development with environmental improvement using appropriate technology, mass participation of people, self-reliance, international cooperation, and monitoring and surveillance of environmental degradation. Then the concept of sustainable development based on an integrative view of environmental policies and development strategies came up. In simple terms, it seeks to meet the needs and aspirations of the present without compromising the ability to meet those of the future. in light of these objectives, the Indian Parliament formed the Environment Protection Act 1986, 1986, based on Stockholm Declaration to prevent further occurring of catastrophes like the Bhopal gas tragedy of December 1984, which I'm sure everyone is well aware of. Today, we have gathered to discuss Indian laws and policies pertaining to our environment in a hope to suggest possible modifications so that the present environmental crisis can be pulled down. I would like to quote Kabir Das, "Kal kare so aaj kare so ab, pal mein pralay hoegi, bahuri karoge kab." So I hope that hope that we debate fruitfully to relieve our motherland from such a malicious state of disaster back to its tranquility. And with this, I conclude my speech. Thank you.
I thank you for your speech. Since there's no more time remaining in your speech, we will not be entertaining any POIs anymore. So we move on to the next speaker in the list, which is Harsimrat Kaur Badal. You have the floor for 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. Greeting, respected sir, and parliamentarians present here. I feel that social impacts to environment is very important to be in committee because perhaps more than anything else, environment sociologists emphasize that the environmental problems are the result of human decisions. The activities that harm the environment, masses of individuals acting independently of each other, making decisions and engage in activities that harm the environment. As when we leave light on, keep our home to be warm in the winter or to cool in the summer. The drive motor bicycles that get low gas mileage, corruptions, government agencies, and other organizations also make decisions and engage in practices that greatly harm the environment. Sometimes individuals, the organization know full well and that their activities are harming the environment. And sometimes they just act carelessly without much through about the possible environment harm of their action. Still, the environment is harmed whether or not individual corruptions and government attempts to harm it. Sociological MC Catter King 2019 cites several other environments accidents that stemmed from reckless decision making, the natural disaster, which human decision accelerated the harm that occurs. One accident occurs in Bhopal, India in 1984 when the Union
Concluding remarks, please.
Yes,
You've run out of time.
Cabbaged pesticide plants leaked 40 tons of deadly gases. Between 3,000 and 16,000 people died immediately, and other 500,000 suffered permanent illness or injuries. Thank you.
Ma'am, concluding remarks, please. All right, thank you.
All right, so we move on to the next speaker in the list. Anagha, who's the next person?
Shashi Tharoor.
Shashi Tharoor, you have the floor for next 2 minutes.
Greetings to all parliamentarians. I'm honored, respected chairman, to speak on this topic, which has turned into an international crisis and is a klaxon of precariousness for our country, which keeps on buzzing, but has gone unheeded a lot of times. In India, the biggest problem is not air pollution or water pollution. It is the fact that this crisis has a lot of times become a political hot potato, always in the few weeks of Diwali, and after Diwali, the debate peaks, and so does the AQI. And the situation we have, which is riveted in urban centers, is very often a bridge to a Delhi-Punjab debate. And honestly, that misses the bigger point, that this is a national crisis, a perennial issue, and not just in November. This is a pan-Indian problem, and it exiges that we solve this together as a nation, as India, and not BJP or Congress. Now coming on to the known problem in detail, air pollution. The 2000 State of Global Air Report published by the Health Effects Institute divulged that since 1990, the number of ozone-related deaths in India have risen by 150%. Staggering figure. The economic implications of deteriorating air quality are ominous as well, with the World Bank study estimating that the welfare costs and lost labor income due to air pollution cost the exchequer nearly 8.5% of India's GDP. So our GDP would be much higher and used optimally if we dealt with our air successfully. Labor losses due to air pollution in terms of the number of mandates lost, for instance, resulted in an estimated calculated loss of $55.39 billion in a single year, and further premature deaths will cost our country an estimated $505 billion, or roughly 7.6% in this coming fiscal year. And the effect on the quality of our lives is incalculable. We can't measure it in numbers, but I remember when I was a student at the Delhi University, September to February would be the best months of the year. But today, let's face it, these are the worst months of the year. Lastly, I would like to say that our discussion today is based on laws. But laws would be made, amended, and the constitution would be flattened every time a crisis rises. But the question I would leave you all to think about, when will justice be served to our invading environment? Thank you so much to all for portraying sheer liberalism and being a patient listener. Thank you.
All right. So your time has elapsed, so we will not be asking for any POIs as such. So the next speaker on the list is
Rio.
Rio. Yes.
Yeah. Greetings to all. The environment, along with the factors we survive on, also includes a lot of negative factors like pollutants, toxic substances, harmful gases, and so on. There are a lot of acts in our country, but are they being followed as per they should be, is the question. The biggest problem, according to me, is deforestation for the use of man and population growth. And so many other problems which have been going on in our country since years. If necessary steps are not taken, our country shall have to face unwanted consequences. More efficient fuel systems, strict enforcement bans on air pollution, effective waste management are some of the solutions, but when will they be implemented? Some other major problems are urbanization and industrialization, which are equally important, but are they so important at the risk of our environment? I hope we will succeed in our efforts to find solutions to these problems for the sake of our future generations. Thank you.
You have 50 seconds left. How would you like to yield your time?
2 questions.
2 questions. All right. So we'll be asking 5 to 6 questions. Are there any questions? Please raise your hand. All right. Arvind Kejriwal, followed by.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm not able to raise my hand, but I wanted to.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
able
So
to. I don't know why.
Is there an option on your participants list? Can you raise your hand over there? I think there is an option over there, or is it not available? Mr. Kenya?
Yes, I'm trying.
Okay, all right. Anyway, so we'll recognize you as well. So after Mr.
It's not.
Okay, yeah, you have raised your hand. So yeah, good job on that. So yeah, after Arvind Kejriwal, we recognize Mr. Kenya, we recognize Sajid Koni Lone, and we recognize YS Jagan Mohan Reddy. We'll be taking 2 more questions later on, but for now, Kejriwal, you have.
Yes, sir. So the rising temperatures and climate change has been a major problem in Nagaland. And as the Chief Minister of Nagaland, what are the steps taken by nephew Rio in countering that?
I'm sorry, you weren't audible. So can you please repeat?
Yeah, sure. I'm saying that climate change and rising temperature has been a problem in Nagaland. And as the Chief Minister of Nagaland, what are the steps taken in countering that?
Yes, I agree that Nagaland, the number of have been
Rio, are you saying something? You're not audible.
has funded an external project which is funded by Japan to increase the forest cover in Nagaland, and yes, steps are being taken on that.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question. We now have Mr. Kenya. You may ask your question.
Yes. Sir, you said that we have to do something to reduce air pollution. We have to do something to curb all of this. Sir, it's very easy to say, but being the CM of Nagaland, you should have a strategy in which you will also keep the economic perspective in mind. So, do you have any strategy as such? Any plans for the future?
So as I said before that for development, trees have been cut, but we are funded, so we are also increasing that. So that is already done, and I don't know about. I'm not very sure about the question that you've asked, but the strategies are Nagaland has completely bad. Nagaland has actually tried to become plastic free and we have almost succeeded in becoming plastic free. So that is one of the steps which are being taken.
So can I have a follow-up?
Sure. Yeah, you may have one follow-up.
Except for cutting off trees, what are your measures in preventing air pollution from industries especially?
In Nagaland, there are not many industries, and right now we are focusing on cloth bags instead of plastic bags, which also helps in the and there has been a raise saplings project. So yeah, and which indirectly helps to reduce air pollution.
Okay, sir.
All right. So I thank you for that question. The next person recognized was wait, I don't remember. Ajit. All right. Yeah. Mr. Ajit.
I do not think I have raised my hand. I'm so sorry.
It's Rangan, it's Sajid.
Sajid.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Sorry. I heard it. Sorry.
Ma'am, my question is that if you are the environmental head, what will you do to to less the air pollution or to protect the environment?
I think increasing the, if I'm the head, okay, increasing the number of forests and trees. Afforestation is one of the major problems deforestation is one of the major problems, and afforestation will also help in the reduction of air pollution, and and it will help in two ways. So it will also reduce the temperatures and the air pollution. And also waste management systems in industries should be worked on. Thank you.
All right. We will be recognizing two more POIs. So all
We
those who wish
already
to.
have Jagan Mohan.
Right. Uske baad we'll take like two more POIs. So we'll be recognizing two more people who wish to ask POIs. all those who wish to ask POS, please raise your hand. All right. People who have already asked the points of information right now, please lower your hand, because we want to give chances to those who
Sorry,
have never.
sir, I forgot to lower my hand.
It's okay. It's okay. All right. So we'll recognize Nitish Kumar, and we recognize Harsimrat Kaur Badal. Anyway, before that, we have Jagan Mohan Reddy. You have the floor.
Thank you, sir. So my question to Nefurio is that Nagaland has certain deposits of important metals like gold, which are utilized by the tribals. That is not the issue. The thing is, these tribals are indirectly used by the insurgencies to access that gold for their own uses. So this is a kind of we can say the insurgencies again use this gold for smuggling purposes, according to certain reports. So what are the steps taken by the Nagaland government regarding these?
I'm sorry, I didn't mention anything regarding this in my speech, but yeah, but just say, but I'm not very sure of what you just said, because the necessary step, like the, as you said, the tribals, so they are using it, and it is their outlook of what is happening there, but also to protect the mining of gold. The mining of gold which is taking place has also been assigned, and we are trying our level best to not let this happen anymore.
Sir, could I have a plea to follow up if you permit?
Sure, you may have one follow-up.
Yes, ma'am, let me rephrase my question. What I'm asking is, okay, actually mining without the permission of the government is considered to be illegal. But Nagaland is a state which has been created for the protection of the minority Naga tribes, and they mine like they do these mining activities to extract the gold, which is deposited underground. And then actually certain reports have shown that the insurgencies in Nagaland are kind of using these tribals for the sake of acquiring of these resources, and insurgencies are obviously harmful. So what are the steps taken by the government to avoid this? That was my question. I'm asking about the insurgencies who are trying to extract the gold and again smuggle it, a natural resource. So please answer that.
Is it okay if I answer it after some time? Because I'm not very sure of what you're saying. So is it okay if I check it and answer it later?
Yes, it's completely fine. It's your prerogative. All right. So with that, we will move to the next question, which is by Nitish Kumar. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
So yeah. So as we know, due to the rising temperature and erratic rainfall and the occurrence of moderate drought, these factors are beginning to impact food production in Nagaland. So, Mr. Rio, what do you have to say about this? As in, what are your thoughts, and how are you going to tackle this problem of food production due to these factors that have just been mentioned? Thank you.
So all these factors are basically like these factors have arisen because for development, basically a lot of what can be said, a lot of natural resources have actually been sacrificed. So it has all occurred because of development. So for that actually, and now that it is in process, we are trying our best to increase the number of trees and water resources. And one of the things I mentioned before, the plastic thing, so that is also being done to increase the rainfall, which is already there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I thank you for that question. The last question is by Harsimrat Kaur Badal. Yeah.
Yeah. Ma'am, just you told to Sajid Lone that by increasing forest areas, So how you will increase for forest areas? There are many industries built in the areas where forests are there, and there are much less area where already forests and rivers are there. So how you can?
Could you please reframe your question because I didn't get it.
So can I?
So you're just asking how forest areas can be increased
Yes, yes.
by the planting of forests, by the planting of trees, and the areas which have been the barren lands. So they are being tried to they are trying. So we are trying to convert the barren areas into to fertile lands where trees can be grown.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we come to the end of Mr. Rio's speech. Now we will move on to Raj Thakre. But before that, we'll be recognizing more speakers for opening statements. So all those who wish to speak and who have not spoken at all, because mind you, you cannot speak twice in an opening statement. So all those who have not spoken in an opening statement till now, please raise your hands who wish to speak. All right. We're recognizing Sudesh Mato. Yeah, Sudesh Mato. Then Sajid Ganilone. Please lower your hands as I recognize you so that I don't count you twice. Thank you. Okay. Then we have Anupriya Patel. Then we have Arvind Kejriwal. Then we have M.K. Stalin. Then Arshad Madani. Then Nitish Kumar. Chandra Babu Naidu. Mayawati. That's all for now. As we come to the exhaustion of this list, we'll recognize even more speakers. Is that okay? So if you have not been recognized yet, don't worry. We will be recognizing you soon. But just that this list is already too long right now, we'll be recognizing you later on. All right. Okay. So we have the next speaker, Raj Thakre. Okay. Just before that, on a very informal note, I would like to really appreciate this entire committee for being very civil and being very respectful of each other's opinions and speeches as such. This is something is very commendable on an online platform. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for being very civil. No, Hemant Soren, you are not recognized yet. I'll be recognizing you later on. Anyway, so let's move on to the formal, the opening statements now. So Raj Thakre, you're recognized next. You have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Greetings, everyone. When environmental policy is discussed, many citizens and representatives champion the need for substantive policy reform. However, when actual policies are introduced, they are typically ignored or delayed. Due to the current state of the environment, politicians need to place a higher priority on environmental policy. Environmental policy is defined as any action deliberately taken to manage human activities with a view to prevent, reduce, or mitigate harmful effects.
You may go on, Raj Thakre.
Okay, harmful effects on nature and natural resources, and ensuring that man-made changes to the environment do not have harmful effects on humans or the environment. It generally covers air and water pollution, waste management, ecosystem management, biodiversity protection, and the protection of natural resources, wildlife, and endangered species. Issues like this affect everyone across the globe and cannot be ignored. Environmental policy, any measure by a government or corporation or other public or private organization regarding the effects of human activities on the environment, particularly those measures that are designed to prevent or reduce harmful effects of humans' activity on ecosystem. The goals of environmental policy may be formulated in several ways to protect human health, ensure further degradation of the environment, etc. Urbanization is often associated with a range of social and environmental problems, including overcrowding, congestion, pollution, public health issues, shortages of water drinking, inadvocates of sanitization, Major environmental issues are forest and agricultural degradation of land, resource depletion such as water, mineral, forest, sand, and rocks. So I hope in the 2 days committee we come up with the solutions for these problems.
All right. So thank you for that speech, Raj Thakre. Unfortunately, your time has elapsed, so we will not be entertaining any points of information as such. So the next speech for today is K. Chandrasekhar Rao. You have the floor, Mr. Rao.
Greeting respected moderators and everyone present here. Myself K. Chandrasekhar Rao. Air pollution in India is a serious health issue of the most polluted cities in the world. 20 out of 30 were in India in 2019. As per a study based on 2016 data, at least 140 million people in India breathe air that is 10 times or more over the WHO safe limit, and 13 of the world's 20 cities with the highest annual levels of air pollution are in India. The 51% of pollution is caused by the industrial pollution, 27% by vehicles, 17% by crop burning, and 5% by Diwali firecrackers. Air pollution contributes to the premature deaths of 2 million Indians every year. Emissions come from vehicles and industries, whereas in rural areas, much of the pollution stems from biomass burning for cooking and keeping warm. In autumn and winter months, large-scale crop residue burning in agriculture field. A cheaper alternative to mechanical tiling
The point of personal privilege.
is a major source of smoke.
So the speaker is not audible. Like, the voice is breaking too much.
Yes, the voice is breaking a bit, but I hope it was. I think I could make out a lot of what the speaker was saying. So, could you tell us which point you could not hear, or do you want the entire speech to be repeated?
So not the entire speech, but I could not exactly understand what he said for the last 20 seconds. That is, I guess the last point which I heard was regarding the firecrackers. 5% of the pollution.
Okay, Mr. Rao, do you want to repeat from that particular point of your speech about firecrackers?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, you
Yes,
can
sir.
take 20 extra seconds. That's completely fine. Yeah.
By crop burning and 5% by Diwali fireworks. Air pollution contributes to the premature death of 2 million Indians every year. Emissions come from vehicles and industry, whereas in rural areas, much of the pollution stems from biomass burning for cooking and keeping warm. In autumn and winter months, large-scale crop residue burning in agriculture field. A cheaper alternative to mechanical tiling is a major source of smoke, smog, and particulate pollution. India has a low per capita emissions of greenhouse gases, but the country as whole is the third largest greenhouse gas producer after China and United States. A 2013 study of non-smokers has found that have 30% worker lung function than Europeans. The Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act was passed in 1981 to regulate air pollution but has failed to reduce pollution because of poor enforcement of rules. In 2015,
Mr. Rao, can
Government
you
of
just
India
conclude now?
together.
Can you conclude? Your time has
Yes.
elapsed.
Okay, sir.
Oh, all right. Okay. So the next speaker that we have, Anagha.
Sudesh. Sudesh Mato.
Okay.
Yes, I'm ready. One second, please. Yeah. Good morning to one and all present here. I are representing Sudesh Mahato, the President of All Jharkhand Students Union and the Deputy Chief Minister of Jharkhand, would like to start my speech with the following quote by Honorable Chief Minister Narendra Modi. Fighting climate change calls for innovation, cooperation, and willpower to make the changes that the world needs. Environment being the concern of this generation and major issue that the world faces today should be given equal importance. According to weather.com, a quarter of India's population is exposed to the levels of pollution of, of pollution and rarely an average Indian sees. An average Indian sees their life cut short by more than 5 years relative to what it would be if the World Health Organization guideline was met. The Air Quality Index (AQLI) data by the Energy Policy Institute University of Chicago quoted. I would like to mention a major environmental issue that Jharkhand faces today. According to scrollroll.com, Jharkhand accounts 40% of India's mineral resources, which makes 3% of India's GDP. Iron, mica, limestone, etc. Unfortunately, being rich in mineral resources did not aid to its growth. Rather, it destroyed the basic essence of the state. That is its rich greenery, flowing streams, virgin waterfalls, and rare wild animals. Uncontrolled mining and greed to extract more and more from the earth has not only destroyed the forest area but also the wildlife and the livelihood of the tribal communities who are fully dependent on forests. Mining can never be an innocuous activity. Unless the mining activities are checked carefully and planned executed, they are born to ruin the land, water, forest, and air. I would also like to mention some national environmental problems like the water pollution, deforestation, air pollution. In my opinion, we should have a fruitful conversation on reviewing the Environmental Protection Act 1986, Industrial Waste Management, Water Act.
Ma'am, concluding remarks, please.
Yes, so this is the last statement, please. Water Act 1974. Hope we all delegates present here would add more agendas and bear a fruit in form of solutions of preventing pollution and make this committee a success. Thank you.
We thank that speaker for that speech. Next up, we have
Sajid Ghani.
Sajid Ghani.
A very good morning to all delegates. I am going to tell some points on solution of environmental pollution. We are currently facing the most critical environmental issue in human history. Our climate, planet, lives, and future as a civilization are all at risk. While the magnitude of all thought can be extremely overwhelming, don't allow yourself to feel helpless, not knowing where to begin. Making small steps and adjustment in your daily routine will give you a sense of success and a yearning to attempt more. Here are 5 simple ways you can help the environment and spark others to become more environmentally aware. Replace disposable items with reusable. Anything you use and throw away can potentially spend centrally in a landfill. See below for simple adjustments you can make to decrease the amount of disposable item in your daily life. Carry your own reusable cups or water bottle. Use airtight reusable food containers instead of sandwich bags and plastic wraps. Pack a waste-free lunch. Carry your utensils, fruit, napkins, and containers in an reusable lunch bag. Bring your own bags to grocery stores. Consider buying long containers for your requirements, beverage, and refilling a reusable bottle instead of buying individual packaging drink. Use rechargeable batteries. So done.
Thank you for that speech. You have about 15 seconds left. How would you like to yield your time, Sajid ji?
So points of information.
points of information. We'll be recognizing 2 points of information. So all who wish to ask a POI, just raise your hand. Okay, we have okay, so we'll be recognizing Mr. Chandrachuda and Hemant Soren. Mr. Chandrachu, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. My question is, as we all know, Jammu and Kashmir is currently it's struggling with environmental degradation as a result of unsustainable use of its natural resources for economic growth. How are you working to tackle this problem? Because it's a problem that has been in the state for a long time. Because Kashmir mostly relies on its on the tourism to finance its growth.
So, point of personal privilege, can she repeat?
Yes, can you repeat your question because it was a bit unclear?
Yes, sir. So Kashmir is currently struggling with environmental degradation because of unsustainable use of its natural resources for economic growth. So, ma'am, sir, how are you working to tackle that problem?
As I told, we can reuse what the things we can reuse to. As I'm telling that we can use the things that can be reused, and we can stop. We can stop. We can stop doing the things which are very harmful to affect the environment.
So, can I follow up?
Sorry, do you want to follow up?
Yes.
Okay, one granted.
So what you're talking about is how people can work towards the environment, but not using plastic bags or using an eco-friendly material will not help to reduce the environmental degradation that is happening because of the large-scale industrial development.
See, it's not that at once only it will be decreased or decreased. It will become very slow. Slowly it will be coming in form. That's why you can do many such things which I told in my speech.
All right, thank you for that question. We have the next question, who is
Hemant.
Hemant Soren. Yes, you have the
So
floor.
sorry, I didn't raise hand because I didn't have any point of information.
Oh, okay. All right. Anybody else who wishes to ask a point of information? There are a lot of hands which are raised right now. Are you sure all of you want to ask a POI, or is it something that you forgot to lower your hand? Okay. Okay, I'm going to assume that all those who have raised your hands wish to ask a point of information. So, Chandrachudan, you just ask a POI right now. So I won't be taking you. Nitish Kumar, you're recognized next.
Am I audible? Okay. Thank you, Chair. The environmental issues confronting J&K now, right now, particularly are pollution of freshwater bodies, air pollution, lack of proper waste management, deforestation, loss of biodiversity, desertification, waterlogging, and natural and man-made disasters. So, Sajid Ganilone, my question to you is, how do you plan to prevent all of these environmental issues that are confronting your state right now? Thank you.
So can I tell it later?
Sorry, do you want the question to be rephrased?
You can answer via chat.
Yeah, you can. All right then.
You've muted yourself.
Oh shit, my bad. Yeah, the next speaker is
Anupriya Patel.
Anagha? Anupriya Patel. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Miss Patel, are you there? You're not audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
So can I start?
Yes, yes. Ayush, can you restart the time? Yeah, yeah, thanks.
Greeting to everyone. I am Anupriya Patel from Apna Dal Party. Me and my party believes that environmental issue is the most important topic that should discuss. Environmental issue affects our country and economy very badly. I think we should discuss about causes, effects, solution of environmental issues. Environmental issues are harmful effects of human activity of the biophysical environment. Environmental protection is a practice of protecting the natural environment on the individual organizations of government levels for the benefit of the both environment and human. Global warming and climate changes, pollution of air, land, and water through excessive deforestation, industrializations of overfilling landfills which emits CO2 and adds to greenhouse gas are all topmost causes of this environmental issue. Human health might be at the reviewing and as a result of environmental degradation areas exposed to toxic air pollute can cause respiration problems like pneumonia and asthma. Millions of people are known to have died due to this indirect effect of air pollution. Solutions about environmental issues. Replace disposable items with reusable items. The uses of paper should be avoided. Conserve water, electricity. Support environmental friendly protections. Recycle the waste to consumable natural resources. Environmental politics of de- designated both the politics about the environment, see also environmental policy and academic field of study focused on three core compounds. The study of politicals, the areas and idea related to the environment.
Closing
The
remarks.
examinations.
Ms. Patel, you have elapsed your time. Could you conclude? Could you wrap up your speech?
Yes, sir.
You are not audible, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right. So since you have elapsed your time, so we won't be asking you for yielding your time as such. So we will move on to the next speaker, Anagha.
Arvind Kejriwal.
Arvind Kejriwal, you have the floor for the next 2 minutes.
Good morning to the respected executive board and my fellow parliamentarians. As our great Bapu said about the resource conservation, that there is enough for everybody's need, but not enough for fulfilling everybody's greed. Air pollution, as we think of environment degradation, issues such as air pollution, water pollution, domestic garbage burning come into our minds. Nature is also causing some drastic effects in India. This situation was worse between 1947 and 1995. According to the data collection and World Bank assessment of studies of World Bank experts, between 1995 and 2010, India has made some of the fastest progress addressing its environmental issues and improving its environment quality in the world. Still, India has a long way to reach environmental quality similar to the developed economies. Pollution remains a major challenge in India. In such a diverse country like India, different states do have different environmental issues. Like in UP, Haryana, and Punjab, which are agriculturally prosperous states, the major environmental issues, the groundwater pollution and the lowering water table. In states like Jharkhand, Odisha, and Jharkhand, Odisha, which are mineral-rich states, the deforestation due to mining is a big problem. In northeastern states, coal mining, their industrial emissions, and the water quality of Brahmaputra. In today's committee, I, as the Chief Minister of Delhi, will be looking at various the environment protection laws and suggest changes that can be put forward in the Parliament as concrete amendments. As the Constitution says under Article 47 that the state shall regard the raising level of nutrition and standard of living of its people and the improvement in public health, which includes protection of environment as a part of our duties. So we can relate, we as parliamentarians can relate how serious issue it has been. This situation has made it to the Constitution. After all, it is the earth which we all have in common, and we should do anything to preserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kejriwal, for that speech. We would now like to go to the next speaker. Anagha, who's the next speaker?
MK Stalin.
MK Stalin.
Greeting, ma'am.
MK Stalin, your voice is cracking a lot. Could you say switch to a better network, maybe?
So now it's clear.
Yes, the voice is clear.
So I'm greeting everyone. I'm MK Stalin, and today I'll brief you about social cause and technological cause and economical cause on environment. Social cause. A social cause is a problem that influences many citizens within a society. It is a common problem in present days society and one that many people to solve. It is often constitution of the factories extend beyond and individuals on control social issues and are the source of the confidence opinion on the grounds of what technological cause through advertising pollution is of environment due to increased production in the natural and processing industries. Weapons testing and high uses of automobiles such as cars, it can be increases the air pollution are the keys components of the environment that has been continually polluted as the result of technology. Economical cause. The environment cost of the economical growth, air, land, and water pollution cause health problem and can damage the productivity of land and seas. Global warming leads to rise sea level, volatility, weather patterns, and the clouds cause significant economics cost, deforestation,
Concluding
damage.
remarks, sir, please.
Last statement, oil and makes area more on the draft. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your remarks, MK Stalin. Since your time has elapsed, we'll be moving on to the next speaker.
Arshad. You have the floor.
Arshad Madani.
Yeah. Good morning, respected chair and my fellow delegates. As I come from the state Uttar Pradesh, yes, India is one of the most populous state as well as the most polluted state. It is important for me to address the problems concerned with the environmental crisis. Some of the major being air pollution, climate change, increasing pollution level, decreasing availability of water and water pollution are not only the causes that cause threat to the biodiversity, but also cause health issues and environmental degradation. I would also like to put forward only the major three ecological crises that must be at the highest point of the present government's agenda now. Air pollution. According to the data released by the World Health Organization in May this year, Ghaziabad and Kanpur had the worst air quality in the world. About 80% of about 80 Indians lose their lives every day due to air pollution. The people in India will be in devastating trouble if this avoidable problem is not addressed in time. Coming to the second one, being water conservation, a Niti Aayog report expresses that 21 Indian urban communities are probably going to run out of groundwater by 2020, if not tackled at right time. And the last one being overpopulation, of course. It is degrading um, the environment through uncontrolled growth of urbanization and industrialization is the common problem of India, which has caused Ghaziabad to be one of the most polluted city in the world today, according to the data released by the World Air Quality Report 2019. People should cooperate with the authorities to address this issue. However, to address these issues, we all need to join hands and work together towards the sustainable development of India. Thank you.
You have about 8 to 10 seconds. How would you like to yield?
I would like to make the point of information.
All right, we'll be entertaining one point of information. So all those who wish to ask a point of information, please raise your hand in the chat. Okay. All right, we'll be recognizing Prashant Javadekar. You have the floor. Sorry, Prakash Javadekar.
Thank you, sir, for the recognition. My question is that since you talked about pollution, yes, pollution is a major problem, but development is needed too. So do you think that the EIA draft of 2020 is a appropriate measure to address the same?
I would think so, but then since the state is run by the NDA, which is BJP, our party has also aligned with the NGOs to reduce the air pollution. But since of now, the BJP isn't concerned with the EIA, the Environmental Assessment Act, I guess.
All right. Follow-up point. All right. Just before that, Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy, you had some point.
So point of parliamentary inquiry. Sir,
Sure.
I just wanted to confirm one thing. Did the delegates state that they had aligned with NGOs? If I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Prakash Javadekar, you have one plea to follow up.
Yes, sir. Ma'am, I believe your answer was a bit ambiguous. So can you just answer with yes or no if you think that the EIA draft 2020 is beneficial for India?
Of course, yes. I'm sure you've got your answer.
Okay, then we'll be moving on to the next speaker. The next speaker is
Nitish Kumar.
Nitish Kumar, you have the floor.
So can you just wait for a second? I just need to refresh all my documents. Just a second.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I'll go ahead now. Greetings to all the politicians present in the House. I'm Nitish Kumar, the Chief Minister of the Indian state of Bihar. The agenda of discussion today is discussing the environmental laws and policies of India. As we know, natural resources such as lakes, rivers, forests, wildlife, etc. have a pivotal role in Indian lifestyle, but the growing population of the country is increasing pressure on the environment. The primary concern of the BJP government is to implement policies and programs for conservation of ecosystems, natural resources, welfare of animals, and prevention of pollution, etc. A large number of cities and towns do not meet the standards for pollutants, specifically for particulate matter. In a few cities, including Delhi, the ambient particulate matter concentrations are much above the standards, that is 3 to 4 times or even higher. In response to the environmental pollution, I have made sure that the following steps and measures have been implemented by people of my state at least. I have pledged over 24,000 crore for over the next 3 years to combat climate change. I have also stressed on the need of adapting a crop cycle in accordance to climate change. Farmers will be provided enough money to use professional farming tools like rotary mulchers, straw reapers, straw balers, reaper cum binder machines. This will help in maintaining the crop cycle that is recommended by me. I also announced that a mega human chain supporting Jal Jeevan Haryali, the program Jal Jeevan Haryali, that would take place in January 2020. The CM said, like I said, that the government was embarking on an ambitious program, Jal Jeevan Haryali, that would seek to improve groundwater table and green cover, thereby sustaining life. Sir, I would like to send the rest of my opening statement to you in a form of substantive chit. Is that fine?
Yes, that would work. Thank you so much. Your time has elapsed, so we will not be entertaining POIs as well. At this juncture, according to the schedule, we would be breaking for lunch right now. So you have an hour, about an hour right now till 1 o'clock or so, until the next session. So I would suggest you break for lunch right now. We'll be looking for motions to suspend opening statements temporarily until we break for lunch. So are there any motions on the floor? Okay, Mr. KG Kenya.
No, sir, that I had raised for a point of information, sir. Really sorry, sir.
All right, okay. Okay, Mrs. Karya Thomas.
I, Scaria Thomas, would like to suspend the opening statements for now and break for lunch.
That motion is in order. Delegates, we are now adjourned for lunch break. But before you go, I would like to appreciate everybody's research in this committee. I really liked the way you guys debated, the questions that were asked. It was really incredible, the amount of sheer dedication that you guys have put in. So I just thought we needed to appreciate it at the outset. So pat yourselves on the back and have a nice lunch. We'll be coming back at 1 o'clock to reconvene. All the best, guys.
So